is City News.
CIWW 1310 AM in Ottawa.
And CJET 1011 FM in Smiths Falls and the Valley. Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
And good morning. It's 10 o'clock on this Tuesday, the 21st of March. I'm Mark Day. Right now in Ottawa, some clouds and 1-2 in Smiths Falls. Here's what's making news right now. There won't be a confidence vote today, but we will see the rules for the new special rapporteur. City News Parliament Hill Bureau Chief Cormac McSweeney joins us with the latest on the foreign interference fiasco in the House of Commons.
On his way into cabinet this morning, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau makes it clear the vote on today's Conservative motion around foreign interference will not be a matter of confidence. Yesterday, the Liberal House Leader wouldn't rule the option out, which would definitely have added drama to the situation. The motion from Conservative Leader Pierre Poilievre would force a second committee investigation into interference in our elections, but only focus on China and force the Prime Minister's Chief of Staff to testify. Liberals have been filibustering a similar motion at a separate committee. But Trudeau does say later today we will get the terms of reference for Special Rapporteur David Johnston, outlining how he will look into the issue of interference.
People will see that there is an expert process that will dig into this in a nonpartisan way, and people can contrast this with the kind of political circus that Mr. Poilievre is trying to generate.
Among his duties, Johnston's expected to make a determination about whether or not there should be a public inquiry into foreign interference. Cormac McSweeney, Parliament Hill.
It's the first full day of spring. Here with the forecast, City News weather specialist Denise Andriacci.
A cloudy day today for Ottawa with some flurries in the forecast. We should stay dry here in Smiths Falls, but for Ottawa, a few centimeters of some snow in spots is possible. Mostly cloudy through Wednesday, some scattered showers, wet flurries by the afternoon, and it's a windy day and unsettled for Thursday. Mild near 10 to 15 millimeters of rain, but also some mixing and some wet flurries possible. The sun is back out for Friday near +4. The guaranteed high today 3.
And right now, cloudy and 1 in Ottawa, Smiths Falls 3. No indictment appears to be coming today for Donald Trump. However, security forces are still preparing for what would be an historic court appearance. Our Alex Bloomfield reports.
The timeline remains unclear, but so far a Manhattan grand jury has not decided whether to indict the former president, though indications are it's just a matter of time. CNN's Paula Reed has the latest.
Any initial appearance wouldn't happen until next week, and we're learning that not only from sources in the Trump world, but also law enforcement.
However, ABC's Aaron Katersky says law enforcement is on high alert in New York City.
We're told there are no specific threats, but the NYPD and the U.S. Secret Service have started talking about security in the event Trump is indicted.
Barricades have already been set up near the courthouse where Trump would likely be fingerprinted and photographed if indicted. Trump could face charges for falsifying documents surrounding hush money payments to an adult film star in 2016. Alex Bloomfield, City News.
I'm Mark Day. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Connecting you and your community. This is the Sam Laprade Show on City News
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, happy Tuesday, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here on City News. I'm Sam Laprade. We have lots to talk about today. It is a busy news day. We're going to get to lots of different topics today. We're going to talk about mental health. We do a lot here on this show, speak about mental health. We're going to be speaking with Ben Lakin, Program Manager, Mental Health Addictions and Substance Use with Ottawa Public Health. We're also going to spend some time today with Deirdre Freiheit. Now, you know Deirdre Freiheit. She's been on this show a lot, both with my colleague Rob Snow and myself over the years. She's the president and CEO of the Shepherds of Good Hope Foundation, as well as the Shepherds of Good Hope, a very big job in our city. She's had that job for about 9 years. She's decided to rewire. We're going to find out what that means. Deirdre's going to join us after the 10:30 news today. We're also going to spend some time today with Randy Rafi and Lydia Blishard, of course, talking about a great event that happens every year for CHEO. I wanted to get caught up today with Josie Sabatino, Senior Consultant with Summa Strategies. Hi, Josie.
Hi, Hi, Sam. Good morning.
Good morning. Certainly an interesting day yesterday at the federal level. We know that Katie Telford, the Liberals are really pushing back on her testifying in regards to the Chinese election scandal, the Chinese interference election scandal. Let's talk a little bit about that, Josie. We know the Conservatives moved a motion yesterday, really putting a lot of pressure on the Liberals. Where do you stand in terms of the next steps?
Well, I would say that Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives met all of their goals yesterday, and they are the real winners with this motion. And what they really have done is they put the NDP in a tough spot, and coupled with the fact that, the Liberal government floated the idea yesterday that this could potentially be a confidence motion, has really, upped the ante for Jagmeet Singh and put him in the spot where if he doesn't vote in favor of this motion, it will look as though he has acquiesced to the government demands on this. And alternatively, if he says, I'm going to vote against it, this will create tension on the supply agreement that they have with the Liberal government. So a really, really bad situation for the NDP here.
And we know that Mr. Singh is in a bad situation to begin with in terms of some of the issues that came up, propping them up around this time last year. I think he's still wearing that, Josie.
Absolutely. And, part of the issue with this supply agreement was always the fact that, it puts him in a tough decision where he really has to decide and pick and choose where, to play his cards. And for this motion specifically, the Liberals are intimidating them. They are putting this on the table and saying, if you vote against us on this, there could potentially be an election, and you will be the one to wear that and take that to Canadians. So I think that that's just a reality of some of the tough decisions we're going to have to see as, again, the supply and confidence plays out over the next year and a half.
And I have to say, I don't think Canadians have the patience right now for an election, Josie.
Absolutely not. And, we haven't seen the budget yet. We're in an affordability crisis. There are a lot of issues that Canadians care about right now. And watching all of these parties bicker over what's happening with this Chinese interference scandal without getting any real answers is not the thing that people want to see the government go down on. So I think, the Liberals have to take this into stock, when they're using these intimidation tactics and really weigh the pros and cons of being heavy-handed on this.
Well, and what's so interesting about it, Josie, to be honest with you, is what we've heard from other sources is that China would be reveling in the fact that it is caused infighting within Canada and putting pressure on these parties. I mean, it's caused infighting, if you will, within the country.
Absolutely. And, if you think back to that first Globe and Mail story, this was exactly what Beijing wanted. They wanted control through a minority government. And, they want this kind of power over our politics here. And the tough part is, and I think all parties have to contemplate this, is if we do go into an election, we actually haven't solved the issue of foreign interference. We know it's there, and we haven't done anything since, these stories have leaked to really get to a point where we're taking this seriously and we're putting safeguards in place for the next election. And to think about how widespread this is, there's stories at the municipal level, at the provincial level, and of course in our federal system, we really have to take stock of where we're at and try and work through this problem so that Canadians can feel confident that when they're going to the polls for the next federal election, that these issues have been resolved, and we are definitely not there yet. We're
speaking with Josie Sabatino, senior consultant with Summa Strategies. Josie, let me say this, during the leadership race for the federal Conservatives, Pierre Poilievre wasn't even talking about becoming the leader of the party. He came right out and said, I want to be the prime minister of this country. He may talk a big game about that, but do you think the people sort of in his ear think he's ready for that at this time?
Well, the problem with the minority government situation is that, the Conservatives have to be ready to go into an election at any time. And I think all parties are under-prepared for a situation, where this could potentially happen in the next couple of weeks. I don't think that that's going to be the case. But I think, Pierre Poilievre really has to use every opportunity that he is in the spotlight to demonstrate that he has the qualities that people are looking for in that prime minister and really live up to that slogan that he is putting out there. And every opportunity is a testament to that and a measure of how well he will do in a general election.
Why do you think, Josie, that the Liberals are protecting Katie Telford so much?
Well, I know what it looks like, and it looks like they're trying to cover something up. And until they really, start to calm Canadians down and send a signal that they're serious about this issue, that perception is going to continue to live on. And that's something that the Liberals, really have to start contemplating what their next step is. And I think, floating the idea of bringing the government down is not the way to do that. And they have to get serious if they don't want this news cycle to continue to work against them for the months ahead.
If there's one thing I know about being a chief of staff in any political office is that you do not want to be the one in the news, right? So take me to Katie Telford. What's going through her mind today?
Well, I think she's shown up at committee before. We've seen where she testified before the House of Commons on the misconduct in the military. It was a process to get her to come and speak, but she did it. And we've seen other cases where she's done this as well. So I do think, we will inevitably see her appear at committee. I think the Liberals are doing a disservice to their own party and their ability to look like they're giving this issue serious consideration. But Katie Telford, unfortunately, as just the position that she is aware of what's going on within the government. She attends these high-level meetings, and she has information to share. So I think the sooner that the Liberals rip off the Band-Aid and have her appear, the faster this story goes away for them.
Mm-hmm. And I can't help but think about Gerald Butts when I think about Katie Telford, because of course, his name was in the media so much in a role like Katie's, and just, that type of sort of people they're trying to serve the Prime Minister being at the forefront. This isn't a good look for them.
No, and it's important to consider that these are big jobs. By nature of, being the chief of staff to the Prime Minister, you're kind of at the front and center of everything. And I think that's why you see people come and go in these roles quite frequently, especially in the Harper government. It felt like we were getting a new chief of staff to the Prime Minister every year or two. But Katie Telford has stuck around. She's been there since the beginning. And I think that must be wearing on her. And unfortunately, we're once again seeing her call before committee because she has those answers Canadians are looking for.
Mm-hmm. Josie, this story in many ways is just beginning. Let's connect again as the story evolves, okay?
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, Sam.
Always a pleasure. Josie Sabatino joining us, senior consultant with Summa Strategies. Always a pleasure to connect with Josie and talk all things politics. We're going to be talking about all things mental health with Ben Lakin a little bit. We're going to be talking about the opportunity to really think about youth in terms of mental health. And once again, Deirdre Freiheit's going to be joining us a little bit later. We're also going to be speaking with Elliot Tepper. Boy, there's lots to talk with Elliot Tepper about today. He's, of course, Distinguished Senior Fellow at Carleton University, Norman Paterson School of International Affairs, a contributor here, of course, to City News. He also is partnering with our very own David Smith here at City News to bring you The World with Elliot Tepper, which happens every Sunday at 9 a.m. We're going to be talking about Vladimir Putin. We're going to be speaking about Japan as well, investing in defense. And, of course, we're going to talk a little Donald Trump. Stay with us here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Bum, 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 bum. $20. $20. We're on the line for $20.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
Blood in the urine is the most common symptom of bladder cancer. Don't ignore this warning sign, not even once.
My Uncle Cheney was one of over 150,000 Indigenous children that were taken to residential schools between the 1800s and 1996. My uncle ran away from school, wanting to get home to his mom and dad, and sadly he didn't make it and died of exposure. When Gord Downey found out about my late Uncle Cheney's story, he wrote Secret Path, a series of poems that became an album, then a graphic novel, a documentary, and a concert. Gord met my family, and together we formed the Gord Downey and Cheney Winjack Fund. Together we are sharing Secret Path and other reconciliation resources with legacy schools, setting up legacy spaces across Canada, and hosting events like Secret Path Week to inspire all Canadians to engage in reconciliation. Before he left us, Gord asked us all to do something.
You're gonna figure it out.
Will you join us? Together we can make Canada a better place.
Hello, my name is Sean Duhame. And this is the Sean Duhame Trio. I hope you enjoyed.
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, I look back to July of 2021 when I hosted this show for the very first time, the Sam Laprade Show. I made a commitment that day that this show would focus on mental health. We have not taken our foot off the gas. Today, I wanted to welcome to the show Ben Leakin, Program Manager, Mental Health Addictions and Substance Use, Health with Ottawa Public Health. How are you, Ben?
I'm very good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. You brought a friend with you, Tricia Islam, Director of All That Kids Can Be with United Way East Ontario. Hi, Tricia.
Hi, thank you for having us.
This topic is really very important to me, and I'm so glad we're sharing it today. Listen, these are tough topics, especially when we're talking about mental health and kids. But Ben, talk to me a little bit about a study that was recently done.
Yeah, thank you. So every few years, Ottawa Public Health works with the Centre for Addiction and Mental Health to do the Ontario Student Drug Use and Health Survey, where we ask students from grade 7 to grade 12 questions about mental health, wellness, substance use. And we recently released our report looking at data from 2021, so right in the middle of the pandemic. And what we can see from there is that although we weren't surprised with the data, it is alarming, and it is something that helps really solidify why we need to continue making mental health and substance use health a priority for our communities, and particularly for our young ones in our community.
It really is alarming, and the pandemic's been so hard on so many. Tricia, walk me through what are some of the resources that are available for families.
Absolutely. So as Ben was saying, the pandemic has been so hard on youth, and we understand that this has been a really terrible time in people's lives. They've navigated deep disruptions, especially with regards to their social connections and relationships. So that's where Project STEP comes in, and it truly is a community-wide response. So we focus on support, treatment, education, and prevention. So it's really great, and the secret sauce to Project STEP is that it's multiple layers. It's in every single public high school in Ottawa and places in the community that youth trust. We provide services to youth, parents, teachers, and school staff. It includes workshops, presentations, and one-on-one counseling.
And we know, Ben, that, you know, that this city, this country is not alone. We know that these rates are staggering globally. When we think about the attempted suicides of children in this particular community, it breaks my heart that, you know, that children feel alone and feel like they don't have anywhere to turn. Walk me through what's being done by Ottawa Public Health to try and curb this.
Yeah, thank you for that question, and just want to say it's really hard to talk about, and one of the symptoms of it being hard to talk about is we're not talking about it enough. And one of the first things that we can all do, and something we're working really hard to do, is there was a stat that came out that showed that 42% of students in grade 7 to 12 who wanted to talk to someone didn't know where to turn. 42%. So right there, that is the signal that we need to hear to say, we need to talk about this more. We need to remove the stigma. We need to remove the shame that comes with it. And we need to help young people understand that it's courageous to reach out for help. It's important. And just like any other aspect of our life, we can only get through it if we have the right support and the right help. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things that we're really hyper-focusing on is making sure through all our channels, all our work, working collectively with United Way, Project STEP, and really supporting what we have in our community called One Call, One Click, which is just something we need to be so proud of in this community. And it's a one-stop shop where children, youth, and families can go to get first connected into the mental health and substance use health services in our community. And since they launched in 2021, they've already had over 8,000 youth and families have used their services. So first and foremost, just want to really have each and every one of us think about how can we have this conversation. We've got resources at havethattalk.ca that help parents and families have the conversation about mental health, about substance use, and it needs to start at home. And we just encourage everyone to check out these resources and have that conversation at home. Just like any health condition, the sooner that we can get support, the better the outcome.
Well, I agree, Ben, because I think when we have the conversation that mental health is health, Tricia, that's the first start. I mean, I'm 52 years old, and never in a million years when I was between the ages of, let's say, 10 and 25, did anyone ever talk about mental health. And even at 25, there was a lot of stigma. We never used those terms. It was always in hushed rooms, Tricia. We need to take it out of hushed rooms and the dark corners, bring it right in the middle of the room and have a conversation, because everybody deals with something. And once we finally come out and have that conversation, that's when it's going to be normalized.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And just what you're saying there, Sam, one of the things we recognize at Project STEP is that folks in middle school and high school, those are the years where you're curious and you're exploring and you have a lot of questions. And we want to make sure that there are touch points in the community, in schools, to answer those questions, to support. So you could be a youth who has those questions. You could be a parent, for example, who may not be sure how to support your child or youth as you're navigating this journey. You might be someone who has concerns about someone that you know, and we want to make sure that there's a touch point for you and you have someone to talk to.
Mm-hmm. And Ben, I have a 15-year-old daughter. And there's times where she comes home from school and, we have social media, we've got, all of the different things, I'll just call them things, that kids at this age are dealing with. And I want to use another word, but I won't, Ben. All the other stuff that kids are dealing with. And I often think to myself, and I've said to my daughter, I don't know what I would do if I had to go through high school with everything that you have to go through high school with. It has changed, Ben. And I think a lot of us, that are maybe of my vintage, forget that how things are so different now, and to have that conversation.
Completely. And we are in a different time, and we can see the impacts of technology, both good and concerning, that are occurring right now with our youth, and we have to take steps as community and as families and as parents to look at how can we better address this. And is it a great psychiatrist at CHEO once told me the idea of having a bin in your house, and a certain time of day everybody puts their tech in the bin in the house, and looking at different strategies, looking at different tips, not allowing computers and phones in the room by themselves, which is near impossible. But those are the things where we can look at what can we do to limit the impacts and the negative side of what social media is doing to self-esteem and mental health. And so there are tips, again, on our website, parentinginottawa.ca, and there's great information from trusted sources online, CHEO, ourselves, where there's some steps that we can take as parents. It's not easy, but it is important. And so limiting the opportunities for social media and treating it like we treat other things. Social media has negative impacts, and we have to be really mindful of that, and we have to have those conversations, and we have to teach as well media literacy to let them know that this is something where it's not a direct take on what reality is. And this is something we really want to echo, and I appreciate you bringing that up a lot.
No, for sure. And Tricia, I think when that little babe is put into, our hands and we're told that we can go home with it. I remember giving birth to my daughter and I'm like, we're allowed to leave? Like, you're giving me I can leave with this child? There's no parenting book. Right. And I think we're looking for a parenting book when it comes to when they're babies, but there's certainly no parenting book when it comes to, these issues. And I really, really respect the work that's being done at United Way East Ontario. Walk me through how people can get involved with all that kids can be.
Great. And I appreciate what you were saying there, because you're right, the landscape is changing. And that's what we saw from the survey results, that there's increased abuses of technology, different types of substances that may not have happened years before. So it's a changing landscape, and that's why we have services specifically at Project STEP and funded and supported by the United Way, because it truly understands that youth don't just, they have their various places in their community where they interact with services. So they might go to school, they might go to community service providers. So if you're a young person, for example, and you have questions, you're not sure how to navigate things that you're seeing with your peers, the things that you're seeing online, maybe some challenges that you're experiencing around substance use, there is someone in school for you that can support you. And even if you're not experiencing that challenge yourself, you can go to your guidance counselor. You can approach them and say, I'd like to speak to someone from Project STEP, and they'll connect you to the right resources. I want to touch base on one thing that you mentioned there about parents. We completely understand that it's a challenging space to be in. So Project STEP also supports parents. There's educational programs, there's workshops, there's resources, and we support parents in navigating those challenges with students. Another aspect actually that I think is really important, and another part of our work, is teachers and school staff, because oftentimes they're working with students and they see things that other folks may not. Mm-hmm. So that's another benefit of our community response, is that it equips teachers and staff to be able to see those indicators and to connect students with support.
Brilliant. Wonderful conversation today. You two have an open invitation anytime you want to join us here on City News and keep the conversation going. Ben Licken from Ottawa Public Health. Ben, thank you so much for joining us today. Tricia Islam, of course, from United Way East Ontario. Appreciate the conversation very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. When we come back, we're going to speak with Deirdre Freiheit, President and CEO of the Shepherds of Good Hope. Now, here's a person in our community that does an incredible job. She's decided to rewire. We're going to find out what that means on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Here comes the 67. He scores! How's that for your first of the season? Oh! Another highlight reel goal. Perfect placement there on the one-time. What a play!
67's action on Rogers TV.
It's a new season of The New Fly Fisher on Rogers TV.
When an impaired driver killed my brother DJ, my life changed forever. During the pandemic, all of our lives changed, and many of us turned to alcohol and drugs to cope. As life returns to normal, the increase in substance use from COVID has lingered, and some police services report an increase in impaired driving that caused heartbreak and devastation. Now, more than ever, we need your commitment to never drive impaired and to encourage all of your family and friends to do the same. Together, we can save lives.
At Celebrate Ottawa, we love showing you something a little different. We showcase remarkable people highlighting the city's diversity in arts, culture, sports, and nature. We will show you features that prove Ottawa is a vibrant and exciting city. We'll entertain you and we'll even teach you new things. Join me, your host, Lila Grine, as we explore and celebrate Ottawa.
On the next Fit Over 50, join us for leg strength and balance. Can't wait to see you then. Namaste.
Hi,
Hi, I'm Justice. And I'm Nia. And we believe dreams fuel revolutions. That's why we're engaging with Canadian icons and the causes they support.
Join us for these inspiring conversations and find out how you can be revolutionary.
Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
And good morning. It's 10:30 on this Tuesday, 21st of March. I'm Mark Day. Right now in Ottawa, cloudy and 1-3 in Smiths Falls. Here's what's making news right now. No confidence vote today, but we will see the rules for the new special rapporteur on his way into cabinet this morning. The Prime Minister made it clear the vote on today's Conservative motion around foreign interference will not be a matter of confidence. The motion from the Conservatives would force a second committee investigation into interference in our elections, but only focus on China and force the Prime Minister's Chief of Staff, Katie Telford, to testify. The Liberals have been filibustering a similar motion at a separate committee, but Trudeau does say later today we will get the terms of reference for the special rapporteur, David Johnston, outlining how he will be looking into the issue of interference. Among his duties, Johnston is expected to make a determination about whether or not there should be a public inquiry into foreign interference. After almost 8 years of nearly constant scandal, Donald Trump may be about to face criminal charges in illegal hush money scheme involving a porn actress. If he is, it's not clear whether that would be enough for Republicans to stop supporting the former U.S. president. Analysts point out that elected Republicans have stood by Trump through his condemnation of John McCain's war record, his sexually predatory language caught on video, his alleged affair as well, and his promotion of false allegations of election fraud and his indictment of a violent mob. Some business leaders, trade experts think it's time to start reviewing the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement, which replaced NAFTA less than 3 years ago. That's because of a review and term extension clause that requires all three countries to sit down every 6 years to ensure everyone is still satisfied. Some Canadian experts are concerned the clause doesn't spell out in detail what happens if one party won't sign off on extending the deal without significant changes, something that could lead to a major renegotiation of that agreement. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Thank you so much for spending time with us here on City News. It is my pleasure to welcome to the show, as I have so many times over the last 5 years, Deirdre Freiheit. Hi, Deirdre.
Good morning, Sam.
Deirdre is the president and CEO of the Shepherds of Good Hope and the president and CEO of the Shepherds of Good Hope Foundation. When you can't have one title, have two, Deirdre. I mean, you've got such a big job. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to tell everybody, we're friends. I'm going to be dishonest about it. We're friends, been friends for a long time. I was sitting in Turks and Caicos at the airport, okay, on my way home. Right. And I see this article. And it says Deirdre Freiheit is rewiring. And I'm like, what's happening? What's happening? My world froze. So you have decided to rewire. And you're using that word. Why rewire, Deirdre?
Because I'm not retiring. I think sometimes when you leave a job after a long time, the phrase gets used, oh, she's retiring. Well, I'm not retiring. I'm just looking at doing something, doing other things in my life in the next stage of my life. So haven't decided what that is yet. I've got some things to consider over the next little while. I'm looking forward to taking the summer off and thinking about what those next steps will be and have some thoughts about what they'll be. But I'm going to take some time to just consider that and move forward later, but definitely not ready to retire.
I'm very happy for you, Deirdre. Very happy.
Thank you.
I'm sad for the Shepherds because I think you've been an incredible leader there. You've brought that organization to a brand new level. We'll talk all about that. But I want to really address, because so I worked in the homeless shelter, certainly not at your level, but I worked at the homeless sector for 9 years, as you know. Mm-hmm. It is a hard sector. Mm-hmm. It is a difficult sector. I'm getting emotional thinking about it. It's a hard sector to work in for people that don't understand what that day-to-day is like. I want to tell everybody, because you're too humble to do so, you have a very, very big job. You have climbed massive mountains. Oh, I'm getting so emotional.
Thank you. This is very kind of you.
You've just done such a great job. And I think,
Thank you.
I think people don't understand what it's like, first of all, and I'm just going to say it, to be a woman in that role. It's difficult to work in that sector as a whole, but to be a woman in that role is a whole other thing. You have taken that organization from the one that was built. I think about Sheila Burnett as well. Took that organization and just ran with it. You took it over from Sheila so many years ago, which is 9. I can't believe it's 9 years, by the way.
I know.
But you've really taken that organization from one that is just a shelter to so much more. Transitional housing. I mean, I could go on and on and on in terms of the resume, but how important is it for you as you're rewiring to walk away from the Shepherds, knowing that you've taken this organization to this next level?
Well, thank you for all of that, Sam, and I feel the emotion too. Shepherds is very near and dear to my heart. I will always be Shepard's biggest champion, no matter whether I'm here in the office every day and on the ground every day, or whether I'm elsewhere in the community. I will always be Shepard's biggest champion. I think the work that that's being done here is exceptional, and it is true that sometimes there's a misunderstanding about the type of work that's being done and how difficult it is for our staff. And I guess what I'm really proud of doing in the last 9 years with them, it's never one person, as you know, we always talk about that. I mean, we have an exceptional team here. We have multiple teams across the city. It's still not well known that Shepherds is more than a shelter in the community, and that we are one of the largest housing providers in the city for supportive housing. And I think that's something that I'm really proud of. We, as a team, agreed many years ago that, keeping people in crowded shelters is not dignified. It doesn't help them move on in their lives. It doesn't give them the support that they need to do that. And so what does? And it's housing. And so we've really expanded supportive housing here at Shepherds. We are on the cusp. You and I've talked about this a few times, but we're actually on the cusp by April, between April and May of this year, we'll have our newest build opening up on Maryville Road. And by that point, we'll be moving 57 people into that supportive housing residence, permanent housing for people. And those are people who are currently in the shelter system. They will have permanent homes of their own. And once that building is full, we'll actually be housing more people than are staying in our shelter. And we're continuing to build supportive housing because we know that that's what ends chronic homelessness. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm super proud of. And it's not me, it's the entire team here at Shepherds.
Mm-hmm. How was the news taken by the team at the Sheps?
They're all very gracious. They're saying that most of them are saying they're sad to see me go. And that they appreciate, the leadership and the fact that we've, really instilled a culture here of support for everyone who comes through our doors, and certainly support for our staff to be able to give them the best care that they can. So I'm getting a really lovely response from our team at Shepherds, as well as people in the community have been just fantastic, and I'm so grateful for that.
And when you think about people that have crossed your path, and then I think about some of the stories that have been shared of people that have arrived at the doors of the Shepherds of Good Hope that probably never in a million years thought they would find themselves there, Deirdre. Is that part of your story now, the stories of the men and women that have crossed your path?
Absolutely. I think I was really naive when I arrived here 9 years ago. I didn't have an appreciation for what brings people here. Nobody as a child says, I want to grow up to be homeless someday. Nobody as an adult says, I want to be homeless, or I'm going to be homeless and I'll live with it and accept it. Nobody wants that. People come to homelessness for, all the reasons we've talked about so many times, but, we've had people from every walk of life who have somehow found their way to becoming homeless, and it's often as the result of a traumatic event. It could be a marital breakup, it could be a job loss. Most often, for the folks that are here at Shepherds, it's multiple traumas. It's mental health challenges. It's brain injuries. It's we've had people who have had motorcycle accidents the result of which is a traumatic brain injury, and they're not able to function anymore, and so they end up losing their supports and becoming homeless. We've people who have been sexually abused as children, and go through a system where they don't get the support that they need and become homeless. But we've had doctors, nurses, lawyers, artists, musicians, everybody from every walk of life, and and a lot of newcomers in the last few years who come to this country with a lot of hope and find out that they don't really have a home to go to. That's tragic. So we see every walk of life here, and that's really opened my eyes over the last number of years, and we're doing everything we can to support all of them with all the different needs that they have.
Mm-hmm. And when you think about all of the board members that have served as well during your time, and I don't think enough attention really is given to people that dedicate their time. And usually it's the whole analogy of, if you want something done, give it to a busy person. So the people that are part of the board also have their own families, their own lives, their own jobs. Sometimes they're CEOs of their own companies, right? Yep. So talk to me a little bit about the work with the board over the last 9 years.
Well, I have two boards that I work with, one with the foundation and one with Shepherds of Good Hope. And so one is a fundraising board and one is more of a governance board. And, you're right. Those folks don't get the recognition that they deserve. They're not paid positions. Nobody on nonprofit boards nobody is in paid positions. They volunteer their time because they care about their community, and they volunteer their time because they care about folks who are here and need services. And they dedicate a lot of time. They give their time to board meetings to talk about governance issues. They are responsible to make sure that I, as CEO, am ensuring that we're financially in shape and that the funds are being spent appropriately. They're also on the fundraising board responsible for raising money in the community. Members of both boards attend all of our events. They donate financially as well as giving their time. And so, they do so much. They're really community members who believe in making our community better, and they give so much time and effort to everything that we do. And I've been very fortunate to work with incredible people on both boards over the years. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And when you think about young women that want to serve in a leadership role and have the title of president and CEO, because it's all roses and buttercups, isn't it, Deirdre? It's all, really
sure.
easy stuff.
There's never a problem, Sam. Never.
So if someone's looking to be in a role like that, what advice would you give them?
I would say get involved in organizations, start to volunteer. Learn about organizations from the ground up if it's not for profit that they're interested in. Volunteer, learn about the culture of the organization, see if it's a place where they want to spend their time and if it's a good fit for them. Apply for jobs and don't be afraid to take an entry-level job to get experience on the ground. Be educated. Organizations like ours actually invest in our staff, and so people who might come in with not a lot of education and come in as a frontline worker in some cases, and frontline workers also do have a lot of education as well. I'm just saying that there's both, that you can come in at an entry-level position and you can work your way through with the support of a good company. We recognize that people come with lots of different talents, and so if you want to be a CEO, go through all of those roles, take a good look at what they are, get experience in a number of places, and then learn about leadership, have good mentors, and then apply, because it is not all roses. It's certainly a balance of human resources. Your people are your biggest assets, and making sure that you're supporting them in the best way possible. The only way that you can do that is to get experience in working with people, and there's lots of different ways to do that. So to be a leader, I think you have to understand people, where they come from, and there's a lot of people who come into these roles and maybe they don't have all the education that they need, but as an organization, we can recognize talent and we can invest in that talent. And we've had a lot of people come through lots of different roles, and they start out at entry-level positions and they're at executive-level positions eventually, and that has happened here at Shepherds many, many times. So, it's learn from people, get good mentors, get an education education one way or another, and work with people to help get you there. There's many forms of leadership. That's a whole other hour or day's discussion in itself. But women are great leaders, and we have people of all genders here at Shepherd's who are all making great strides in their leadership positions. So it's totally doable.
Well, this chapter of Deirdre Freiheit of the Shepherds of Good Hope is one that I will treasure, watching you grow in that role and just seeing the difference you've made in our community. I cannot wait for the next chapter, my friend.
Thank you, Sam. I'm really grateful. Thank you for, all of the times you've had me on your show to talk about the work that we do here at Shepherd's. And I'm sure the next leadership team is going to be really thrilled to be talking to you about what happens next and taking Shepherd's to the next level. And I'm excited to see what that's going to be and really excited to see the organization move forward. So thank you for all of your support. And can I also just give a big shout out to our community who's been incredibly supportive. And, we can't do the work that we do without them. So It's been wonderful.
Absolutely. So your last day, Deirdre, what's your last day?
June 30th. So everybody's stuck with me here at Shepherd's for another 3 months.
Excellent. And July 1st, please sleep in. Please sleep in on July 1st.
I may just do that.
Okay, fantastic.
Do that.
Deirdre Freiheit joining us, President and CEO of the Shepherds of Good Hope and the Shepherds of Good Hope Foundation. Last day, June 30th. We appreciate her leadership. When we come back, we're going to meet Randy and Lydia. They're going to tell us all about a great event in our city. Stay with us on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
Salut tout le monde, je m'appelle Jessie Lindsay. Venez écouter mon spectacle Encore Ottawa 3 sur Rogers TV cette semaine. Hi everybody, come listen to my Encore Ottawa 3 show on Rogers TV this week. I hope you enjoy it.
Yo. Yep. Okay, I'll be there.
On Tuesday's Daytime Ottawa, we're going to share some delicious recipes, all with that spring theme. So you're going to want to tune into that because spring is in the air, my friends. We'll also introduce you to a local jewelry designer who has some fantastic pieces to share with us on the show. And Howie Mooney, who is a very familiar face to those of us at Rogers TV from many years ago. He's written a brand new book with some fascinating stories about sports.
Hey everybody, my name is Karen. I'm here with my best friends Shane and Monique. Join us on Rogers TV for Fitness Faction. Every week we're going to take you through a full body workout. We've got strength training, we've got cardio, we've got HIIT. Ladies, let's get back into it.
I think we've got 10 more skaters. Let's go.
Hi, I'm Justice.
And I'm Nia. And we believe dreams fuel revolutions.
That's why we're engaging with Canadian icons and the causes they support.
Join us for these inspiring conversations and find out how you can be revolutionary.
Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
heard about Yoga Palooza? Well, you're going to hear all about it now. Randy Ruffy's joining me now, and Lydia Blanchard. Hello to you both.
Good morning, Sam.
It's great to have you here. Randy's been organizing 24-hour Yoga Palooza for many years, as well as Lydia Blanchard is joining us, Chief Development Officer at the Ottawa Art Gallery. And Randy, tell us about this event.
Sam, Yoga Palooza, 24-hour Yoga Palooza is coming into our 6th campaign right now. And over the past 5 years, we've raised $250,000 for CHEO, for cancer research.
Amazing. I mean, every year I have you on and the number goes up, I'm just so proud of you, Randy. I know how hard you work on this event. And Lydia, I have to say, when Randy sent me a message and said he was going to the Ottawa Art Gallery and he was working with Lydia, I was like, perfect, win, win, win. Lydia, how excited are you to have Randy and his team?
Oh, we are thrilled to be hosting Yoga Palooza again this year. This is actually going to be the second year that the event will be held at the Art Gallery, and it is just the perfect alignment in every way with what we do at the gallery, bringing art and wellness together and supporting our community. Especially, we're big supporters of CHEO, big fans of CHEO, and so this event just aligns with all angles of the gallery and what we do.
And Randy, people might be thinking, okay, 24-hour Yoga Palooza, what does that mean? What are you looking for? And how can people get involved?
This year, we've changed our format a little bit, Sam. We're actually going to do 2 consecutive 12-hour days. So a Saturday and a Sunday combined, participants can come in and join us, raising money, maybe do an hour or 2 of yoga, or if they would like, they're welcome to stay for the full 24 hours.
That's awesome. And Lydia, walk me through why this kind of event would be important for you.
Absolutely. So a big part of what we do at the gallery is to work with community partners like CHEO, like the Ottawa Hospital. We've got multiple partnerships with all different health organizations in the community to really make sure that art is utilized in a way that'll help support the health and well-being of our local community. And so that was one of the things that right away when Yoga Palooza approached us about coming to the gallery for their event, it was the perfect alignment there. And this year we're actually really excited because we've actually added to the partnership. We're expanding on it beyond just the event itself, but engaging the community in yoga throughout the year as well by offering free yoga sessions a couple times a month between June and November. And we're going to have different yoga instructors from the Yoga Palooza team coming and doing these yoga sessions for the community, where anybody in Ottawa can come join and be part of those to learn about 24-hour Yoga Palooza, what they do for CHEO, and hopefully they'll register and participate in the event. And then on top of that, they'll learn about what the Ottawa Art Gallery represents to the community as well.
And Randy, why CHEO?
Well, the thing is, Sam, every day 6 children in Canada are diagnosed with cancer. And children's cancer research is, very low on the scale of funding when it comes to cancer research. So co-founder Steve Neville, he has a very personal connection, and their son Cole is a cancer survivor due to the amazing research we do here in Ottawa.
Such an important reason, and Randy, thank you for all you've done for this event, and Lydia, the connection with CHEO. I know you have a big connection with CHEO as well. Mm-hmm. This just makes sense.
It does. It definitely does.
And Randy, walk me through who's there, because I'm thinking, okay, is this something Sam Laprade could do? I mean, I'm not doing yoga every day, my friend, okay? Like, let's just be honest, okay? I'm about as flexible as a steel bar. But
and you know what? I would say the same about myself.
Okay.
The thing is, yoga is for everyone. It's very much a community event. And so whether you're new to yoga or you've been doing it for years and years and you're super flexible, we've got space for you on the mat. You're welcome to come out and join us in the fundraising on event day, or there'll be an opportunity to sign up early summer and help us raising money.
Wonderful. So where can we get more information, Randy? Where can we find that?
I would recommend 2 things. One, if you're on social media, Instagram, you can find us there at 24HR Yoga Palooza. And you can also find us on the web at www.24HRYogaPalooza.ca.
Amazing. And Lydia, I have to say, I mean, I was really honored to co-host an event at the Ottawa Art Gallery, the Purple Tie Gala, which happened, of course, for Cornerstone. And I just find I'm seeing, and I think this is you, my friend, so I'm going to give you a shout. I'm seeing that the Ottawa Art Gallery is really opening its doors and being creative about, you know, who's coming in, how the gallery is being used, and I really credit you for doing that, because I think this is, sometimes we think about art galleries and we have to tiptoe through them and nobody talks and it's all it's not a community place, but I really feel you're taking it to a new level in terms of inviting people in and having other things happen in the building other than just enjoying the art. How important is it for you, Lydia, to really open the doors of the Ottawa Art Gallery?
Honestly, the Ottawa Art Gallery, that's what we're all about. It is a grassroots community-run organization in that sense. So we were built by the community in the 80s, back when we were still in arts courts. And then the community is what brought us to this brand new giant building next to the Rideau Center there, where we opened our doors just 5 years ago. And honestly, it's because of the community that we've been able to grow in this way. And so our whole purpose is, being accessible to everyone in the community. We have free admission to the gallery every day, so anybody from the community can come in and it's free to come through our doors, and then creating those, making space for community partnerships so that we're really giving back and impacting our local community in a way that art just has this power to be able to do. So partnering with organizations like CHIO and Yoga Palooza and the Cornerstone Housing for Women and all of the charities that we've been working with, it's just one of those win-win situations for us, and it's all about community and supporting each other.
Well, congratulations, Lydia Bouchard, Chief Development Officer for the Ottawa Art Gallery, and of course, Randy Rafi. During the news break, I'm going to listen to the news, Randy, but I'm going to start my stretching. Is that okay with you?
That'd be awesome,
okay.
Sam. And, we would love to have you come out and bring some friends and family members and put a team in to join us.
Sounds like fun. Thank you so much, you too. Appreciate your time today. That sounds like a lot of fun. 24-hour Yoga Palooza. Look it up. Get booked up for it. And we look forward to the conversations to come with Randy and Lydia. Conversation I'm looking forward to is going to be with Elliot Tepper. Elliot, of course, joins us here a lot on City News. We're going to talk about, pretty much everything under the sun, everything from Donald Trump to Vladimir Putin. Stay with us here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
On the next episode of Simply Cooking by Chef, I show you how to fill your freezer with 8 different meals for the next time you're in a pinch.
Your City News forecast for today could be a windfall of cash. With our weather guarantee, if we're off by 3 degrees, you could win. Enter at ottawa.citynews.ca. And if you hear your name on Wake Up with Rob Snow at 7:21 a.m., call in to claim your cash.
Everybody knows not to drink and drive, but some people still think it's okay to take drugs and drive. Police have the authority, the ability, and the tools to determine if drivers are impaired by legal or illegal drugs. And because drug-impaired drivers can pose just as great a risk as drunk drivers, they face the same penalties, like the loss of their driver's license, a criminal record, fines, and more. A message from the RCMP, the Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police, and Arrive Alive, Drive Sober.
Hi, I'm Meg from AIM Fitness, and I'm here with my buddy Fit Finley. Join us every week for Fit Over 50. We'll take you through some low-impact and high-intensity workouts designed to improve your strength and your balance. All you'll need is a resistance band, some light hand weights, and also your water bottle and a sturdy chair. Tune in right here on Rogers TV and let us be part of your weekly routine.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
$20. $20. We're on the line for $20.
ET 1011 FM in Smiths Falls and the Valley. Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
Good morning. It's 11 o'clock on this Tuesday, 21st of March. I'm Mark Day. Right now in Ottawa, cloudy and 1 in Smiths Falls, 3. Here's what's making news. Right now, the issue of foreign interference will not be triggering a federal election today. City News Parliament Hill Bureau Chief Cormac McSweeney joins us right now with the latest from the House of Commons.
No, it's not going to be a confidence motion.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was quick to clear the air this morning on his way into Cabinet. Yesterday, his House leader wouldn't rule out making the Conservative motion on foreign interference a matter of confidence, which could risk triggering an election. So no need to worry about that when MPs vote on the motion. That would create a second committee investigation into interference, but only focus on China and force the Prime Minister's Chief of Staff to testify. It's not yet clear how the NDP will vote. Trudeau does say, however, that later today the feds will be releasing the mandate for the Special Rapporteur David Johnston, who's charged with examining the issue of foreign interference.
People will see that there is an expert process that will dig into this in a nonpartisan way, and
Johnston will determine whether or not there should be a public inquiry into foreign interference. Cormac McSweeney, Parliament Hill.
It does not appear as though Donald Trump will likely be arrested today, as the former U.S. president predicted over the weekend. Our Alex Bloomfield has the latest.
It's unclear what the grand jury that seems poised to indict the former president may do today, but even if a decision is reached, CNN's Paula Reed says there is one factor that likely leads to a delay.
He does want to appear if he is indicted in person, despite all the security concerns.
An in-person appearance will require coordination from a number of security agencies, including the FBI and the Secret Service.
Intelligence bulletins obtained by ABC News warn of a significant increase in threats and violent rhetoric, and say some of Trump's most ardent supporters are still willing to fight on his behalf.
That's ABC's Aaron Katersky in Manhattan. Sources close to both the Trump team and law enforcement tell CNN and ABC next week is looking like the more likely timeline if the jury decides to indict. The potential charges relate to hush money payments to adult film star Stormy Daniels ahead of the 2016 election. Alex Bloomfield, City News.
City News time 11:03, and this just into City News from Halifax. Police there charging a 15-year-old with several offenses, including 2 counts of attempted murder in connection with a stabbing at a high school in Bedford, just outside of Halifax yesterday. Police there also say the 2 injured staff members are currently in serious but stable condition. Police also reporting that the teen suspect sustained non-life-threatening wounds in that incident. Police in Halifax say they will update the progress of their investigation later this afternoon. There are plans to make a future LeBreton site carbon neutral. City News reporter Chris Curries has more.
It's a similar technology currently in use at Zeeby, where they use the excess heat generated from the Kruger plant. This time, it would just be using municipal wastewater. Scott DeMarc of Thea, who runs the Zeeby site but is assisting with LeBreton, tells me how it would be done.
We're using a sewer pipe, and that's kind of like a warm underground river. And so what we do is we exchange both cooling and heating to that warm underground river.
Also at the Environment and Climate Change Committee today, Councillor Ralston King will be pushing for the installation of more charging stations around the city for electric cars. Chris Curries, City News.
I'm Mark Day for News Anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
When I want to know what's happening in the world, I call Elliot Tepper. Elliot is the Distinguished Senior Fellow at Carleton University's Norman Paterson School of International Affairs, and obviously a big contributor here to City News. He also has a show with our very own David Smith called The World with Elliot Tepper, which airs every Sunday at 9 a.m. I caught the show this week, Elliot. It was fantastic. Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you, Sam.
Appreciate everything you do here for City News. Listen, lots to talk about, and I don't pretend to understand a lot of the dynamics here, and that's why we call you, Elliot. So let's talk a little bit about this important meeting. We know that Putin and Ping were meeting, them continuing to meet today. My understanding as well about a lot of different issues. I know the West is very nervous about this meeting. Should we be nervous, Elliot?
We should watch it very closely. This is really the statement by the two leaders that they plan to have an alternative world order. This is a dynamic, absolute assertion that the world is not a unipolar world. It's not going to be run by America, that there's going to be alternative power centers, and these two states plan to lead that alternate geopolitical lineup. This is really an assertion of leadership and a statement of this is the new order, the old order. To quote Xi Jinping, the East is rising, the West is declining. These two powers together, had the invasion succeeded in Ukraine, would have really shifted geopolitics dramatically. It didn't work, and Xi Jinping is there to say, I got your back, I'm still with you, we are dear friends.
What message does this send in terms of Thailand? What message do you think this sends to the people of Thailand that he's meeting with Putin and it wasn't, to your point, successful in Ukraine?
The whole big issue right now, and we've been talking about this for a long time, is what are the lessons that China is learning from the Russian failure in Ukraine? The answer to that is clearly unknown at the moment. We are all worried very much that Taiwan is on the to-do list for Mr. Xi Jinping, and that sooner or later he's going to move to take it. He's by 2049, he's got a plan for China to be the world's foremost power. Along the way, they plan to bring Taiwan into the Chinese fold. Will they do it militarily? And the lessons that he may be learning is, plans don't always go the way you want. If you attack and it fails, then you don't look good. Or he may have learned a different lesson, which is if you wave the nuclear weapon flag around, you can do anything you want, including Taiwan, and nobody will do anything to defend you. So this is also a lesson for China to watch how fast the world organized against Russia. China is a vastly bigger economy, a vastly bigger power, but the world has to be open for China and stable for China in order to continue its rise to prosperity and to power. What would happen if they invaded to Taiwan in order to facilitate that continued rise? These are the kinds of questions on the table, but everybody, you're quite right to put your finger on that as a key issue.
Mm-hmm. And let me talk about the timing of the arrest warrant for Vladimir Putin. We know that was issued, and he's wanted in The Hague for these charges against removing children. It's really hard to even talk about, to be honest with you. Removing children from their family and in Ukraine, bringing them. The propaganda video makes me sick to my stomach, Elliot, to be honest with you. The timing of that arrest, the timing of this visit with Ping, and the timing of Putin driving himself around occupied Ukraine. Walk me through the timing here.
Sure. The timing in terms of Mr. Putin going to what he considers Russian territory the day after an arrest warrant is issued is not a coincidence. If he wants to say, look, I can go anywhere I want in Russian territory, which of course is Ukrainian territory that is illegally seized. So he was making a statement in that regard. And of course, Xi Jinping's visit put Xi Jinping in the very awkward position of well, let's put it this way. I don't think Xi Jinping wants to have any sentence that includes the following: Xi Jinping, arrest warrant, war criminal, my best friend. Mm-hmm. So the context for this meeting shifted with that arrest warrant, even though the arrest warrant itself is not likely to be effective in the immediate term. The symbolism of branding Mr. Putin a war criminal and then him having to demonstrate I can go anywhere I want in my Russian territory, all of that has to put a shadow over the visit by Xi Jinping to Mr. Putin. Right now he's saying, I don't care if you're a war criminal, I've got your back. But that's going to put Xi Jinping and China in an awkward position. There's no doubt that this arrest warrant, although highly symbolic at the moment, has real bite to it. If at any point Mr. Putin leaves office one way or another, he can be more easily arrested. As head of state, it's somewhat more difficult in many states, in many countries. 123 of them, Sam, he can't go to without an obligation to arrest him. An obligation to arrest him. That would include Canada. Don't think Mr. Putin's coming here. But the point of all this is that Mr. Putin's illegal and aggression against Ukraine is coming home to roost. China says they've got a peace plan, but the peace plan itself opens up with, and I could quote it, but I won't go into detail, you can't invade and change the sovereign territorial boundaries of any other state, point one, and of course Russia did that. Xi Jinping is in a very complicated situation right now, dealing with the war criminals so branded by the International Criminal Court over children.
Oh, it's that video. I watched it the other day twice, and because the first time, to be honest with you, I was so emotional I couldn't really sort of get through it, and then I watched it a second time to really kind of understand and see the nuances in that video, and it absolutely makes me sick to my stomach. Elliot, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to ask you about you and I both know, when it comes to politics, there's always those backroom hush conversations. So what backroom hush conversations are being had by political people in Russia right now? And to be honest with you, with the generals that are leading this war in Ukraine.
Well, thank you for asking that, because all the attention so far has been on, well, here the two are meeting, they're having lunch, they're having dinner, they're having talks. All of that's the public part. And I think, like you, it's really critical to be examining what we aren't hearing. And the fact this is a 3-day meeting is in itself important. Xi Jinping leaving China for 3 days, that's a great show of support. What are they talking about off the record? The possibility that there's secret deals going on for supply of military weapons of one kind or another, probably through third country. The possibility that all the public persona of Mr. Xi Jinping is, I want to be a global leader, I want stability, I can bring peace, I'm all in favor of peace. Perhaps what they're talking about behind the scenes is, how are we going to overthrow the U.S. and assert our hegemony instead of theirs? And there's a lot of concern about what this means for Ukraine. What kind of real support will China be providing to Ukraine? There's, as you know, going to be publicly, there's going to be a phone call between Ukraine, Zelensky and Xi Jinping. But like you, I think we should all be quite concerned about what they're talking about privately.
So when we think about President Joe Biden coming to the Capitol, meeting with Prime Minister Trudeau, where on the top, list of priorities of a conversation between Biden and Trudeau is this conversation regarding Ping and Putin?
I think we're going to, again, what they talk about publicly and privately when they do get together is a subject of discussion. Ukraine is going to figure very prominently in any international meeting now. I think it will be very prominent in terms of Mr. Biden's visit to Canada, his first official visit as president. But, of course, these two leaders see each other, talk to each other a lot, and I think Ukraine is always number one item of discussion.
And let's talk a little bit about, the issue that we face right now in terms of the Chinese election scandal, the interference that China potentially had here in Canada, and what's happening, internally in this country. Because I would think that this would be exactly what China would want, is this infighting, this talk of confidence vote, etc. It seems to be they might be sort of wringing their hands with delight in China.
Yes, it's kind of win-win. First, you interfere, and then you benefit from the disorder and disunity that results as of all of this, of course, is alleged. But the disunity which we now see in front of us, and my increasing concern that the only conversation about this election interference is whether there's going to be a public inquiry or not. And so I'm going to serve, if you have one, all problems solved. If not, it's the process. I don't really care whether it's public or private or a seminar at Carleton. We need to have a way to deal with this kind of foreign interference, and China's not the only actor, but it does once again go back to where we started this. What kind of superpower does China want to be? How does it want to express itself? How does it go forward as a superpower? And if interfering in a number of countries' internal and domestic electoral processes, and that seems to be the case, is part of their method of operation, then we have a much clearer picture of what kind of state Xi Jinping's China is. But this is not China. We're talking about a particular regime, Xi Jinping's Communist Party regime, not the people of China. But that goes back to your question, a very good one, that, so what are Xi Jinping and Mr. Putin actually talking about behind the scenes, whatever the public persona that each one wants to project.
It's going to be very interesting to follow this story. Elliot, will you stick with me? Can we have a quick break and
Sure.
Can we come back and talk about Donald Trump?
Oh, yes, indeed.
Let's do that. Elliot Teffer, Distinguished Senior Fellow, Carleton University's Norman Patterson School of International Affairs, and a wonderful contributor here to City News. We're going to come back, talk a little Donald Trump with Elliot. Stay with us, everyone.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
Hello, my name is Sean Duhame. And this is the Sean Duhame Trio. I hope you enjoyed.
It's about sharing and caring. It's about doing and belonging. It's about living life to its fullest. And it's about laughing out loud. We are L'Arche Canada, and we're about witnessing and sharing the gifts of all people. Learn more about us today.
Ladies and gentlemen, I will endeavor to describe the feeling on this ship.
The American ship is just trailing the Blue Nose.
Angus should never have agreed to this last race. She's too old.
Ready?
Johnson, halyard back! Get to it, Matt!
Appears there's some kind of difficulty.
Seems to be something loose up there, I believe.
The topsails foul!
Just once more, old girl, and you can rest.
Her last race and still undefeated, the Blue Nose out of Lunenburg, Nova Scotia was fastest in the world for almost 20 years.
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
Here comes the 67.
He scores!
How's that for your first of the season?
Another highlight reel goal.
Perfect placement there on the one-time. What a play!
67's action on Rogers TV.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Thank you so much for spending time with us here on City News. It's always a pleasure to welcome Elliot Tepper back to the show today. Elliot joined us to talk about a lot of different topics earlier. We're going to spend some time talking about a topic that wasn't on my radar, Elliot. And of course, Elliot's from Carleton University and the Norman Paterson School of International Affairs. Elliot, this wasn't on my radar, and I really want to address it because I don't think a lot of people are talking about it, and that's the relationship between Japan investing in defense and really what that means for Canada. Can you give us a bit of a summary there?
Yes, I think this is another one of those quiet stories, and good for you for picking up on it. Japan is very concerned indeed about the nature of the way that China wishes to express itself as a superpower, if I could put it that way. And we're getting a clearer and clearer picture of that. And, of course, it's working to the detriment of basically free and open societies. So one of the things to report, in case it hasn't made the news big yet, is that Prime Minister Kishida of Japan has just gone to Kiev. So simultaneously, while Xi Jinping is in Moscow, he's now in Kiev talking to all the leaders there, expressing, and this is a reminder to us, this isn't a West or NATO issue. This is a democracies versus autocracies issue. Japan has very clearly, unambiguously come out in favor of we have to protect liberty, and we have to therefore stand with Ukraine. It's a very courageous and bold step. Mr. Kishida also has, as you pointed out now, wants to have a greater role, maybe perhaps including Canada. He did visit here last October, which was a big deal. You don't get that very often. Mm-hmm. So that, no, the Japanese are playing a great leadership role here. They are chairing the G7 in Hiroshima, where the bomb was, and that happens to be Prime Minister Kishida's home area. And he would like to remind the world of what's at stake in the Ukrainian crisis in terms of protecting freedom and keeping the world safe also from those who threaten nuclear weapons and their use in today's world.
Really appreciate that, Elliot. And certainly that's a story that we're going to follow very closely here on City News as well. And I know when you have your weekly time with David Smith on The World, according to Elliot Tepper, I know that topic will come up again, I'm sure. I wanted to talk about something that, well, let's be honest, a lot of people are talking about at the water cooler today, and that is Donald Trump. Give us a sense, Elliot, what it means if Mr. Trump is indicted on these charges.
We're all going to be talking about him around the water cooler.
Right.
One implication of all this is, once again, he's able to attract, as they say, suck all the oxygen out of all the other stories. So the competitors who hope to replace him as the nominee for the Republican Party, and also allowing, whoever the Republicans nominate, has a good chance of becoming president of the U.S., the only candidate anyone's talking about right now, once again, is Donald Trump. So it's one of those things where he can't lose by winning or win by losing. He is in serious, very serious legal problems. He's got financial problems as well. But this is, if we can go back to the opening, the war crime arrest warrant over children in regard to the Ukrainian misadventure by Mr. Putin. It's just the opening salvo, and perhaps one of the smaller of the types of crimes that could be attributed to Mr. Putin. In this case, Donald Trump is being accused of essentially election interference laws. He might be indicted for that. We don't know what the indictment would be, but he might be indicted because of the payment of hush money over Stormy Daniels, and I think everybody will remember that. But this is one of the lesser charges that are pending. This is the first, possibly, of many indictments down the pike in the near future for Donald Trump.
Well, Elliot, I've got to be honest with you, when you talk about, and I'm not saying you, but when we talk about globally, this story about Stormy Daniels and the $130,000 and Michael Cohen and the $400,000, it all sounds like the movie of the week. I mean, it sounds absolutely ridiculous. And to think that, this was somebody that was, the head of the United States and have such incredible power, I'm really wondering how much this is actually going to galvanize his his following? Because it is so ridiculous.
Yes, he's, however, using it to raise money. It's already a fundraising opportunity for him, and apparently money's coming in. Again, it's very hard to defeat Donald Trump no matter what comes his way. So, but let's focus a bit on the seriousness of it. Of course, this is titillation, and the charge seems trivial. But in fact, the charge is quite serious, because there was a possibility that had this story come out, and it had the hush money not been there to prevent the story from coming out, it could have affected the possibility he would be elected president of the United States, which he was not long after. Had this come out after the Access Hollywood furor earlier, which Russia intervened to save him from, possibly a second scandal would have damaged his the chances that he would become president, and therefore we would have a different world history today. So even this charge, which seems almost comic, does have serious implications. But again, it's just the first of a number of possible indictments coming his way in the very near future. He has the ability, perhaps, to run for office, as he said. None of the other candidates now can touch him. The Republican Party is rallying around him in a way that's just extraordinary. I don't know if you've seen this, but Kevin McCarthy is now letting 3 of his committee chairs go after the DA, the prosecutor in New York. They're going to call him to Washington to investigate the investigator. So this really cements Donald Trump as the anointed one within the party, putting poor Ron DeSantis perhaps at a disadvantage for the moment. So all of this is very fascinating politics, but it has very serious implications.
Absolutely. And I have to say, Elliot, when I think about people that are leading, whether that's municipally, provincially, obviously the country, globally, all of those pieces, I always think, of it, we wouldn't have jobs if it was boring. But I think if we had leaders that were absolutely focused on actually moving forward in terms of policy and making countries or regions better, that's what people really want. They want stability. So I don't understand why time and time again we see people that have got so much controversy around them, people still propping them up. You're very, very smart, Elliot. Why do you think that is?
I think it's a deliberate electoral strategy. We could say, well, it's the nature of human condition. We want to be entertained. And one thing for sure, Boris Johnson was fun, not a great political leader in terms of taking the country out of Brexit and so forth. So we're looking after color in our lives and so forth. But this is far, far deeper than that. This is electoral politics. Why get people all wound up about, paying their bills and mortgages and the fact that deregulation has led to another bank failure? And let's deflect attention from the real issues that affect people's lives and get everybody talking about culture war issues. To the degree the Republicans can have culture wars as the center of the conversation, to that degree the Democrats have great difficulty saying, look at all the good things we just did for the country and we plan to do for the future. So one party is working on, we're delivering for America, and we're going to continue to deliver for America. And the other party is saying, look at all these terrible things happening, transgender bathrooms and all of the other culture wars. And of course, Donald Trump is at the very core of the culture wars.
Mm-hmm. And this is exactly why we have you on, Elliot. I always learn something. Thank you.
Oh, it's always a pleasure talking to you, Sam.
Always a pleasure. Elliot Tepper joining us, Distinguished Senior Fellow, Carleton University's Norman Paterson School of International Affairs, a contributor, of course, here to City News. And he has a wonderful show with our very own David Smith, 9 o'clock on Sunday mornings, called The World with Elliot Tepper. When we come back, something has me absolutely boiling mad. Find out what when we come back on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's a new season of The New Fly Fisher on Rogers TV.
On the next Fit Over 50, join us for leg strength and balance. Can't wait to see you then. Namaste.
I'm Wendell Clark with a word about winning. We all know it takes a team effort in any sport and with any challenge. You can be a part of the winning team that shuts out impaired driving. Whether you're out on the town or just hanging out with friends, drink responsibly. Always have a plan for a safe ride home for yourself, your family, and your friends. You'll be helping to shut out impaired driving.
Visit ArriveAlive.org to find out more. Arrive Alive. Drive sober.
Hey folks, it's me, Giovanni Patini, the host of the RTV quiz show, the hottest show on television. It's the hilarious quiz show where you, the viewers, play for valuable non-existent prizes. It's got great trivia, fun facts, and a lot of laughs, all blended together in a perfect cocktail of edutainment. So join us Wednesdays at 7:30 right here on Rogers TV. Nice.
Hi, I'm Justice. And I'm Nia. And we believe dreams fuel revolutions. That's why we're engaging with Canadian icons and the causes they support.
Join us for these inspiring conversations and find out how you can be revolutionary.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It's 11:30. Good morning on this Tuesday, 21st of March. I'm Mark Day, and right now, some light snow and 1 in Ottawa, Smiths Falls 3. Here's what's making news. Right now, there will not be the possibility of an election over a vote of foreign interference today. The new mandate for the special rapporteur has been released, and it looks like the Prime Minister's Chief of Staff will be testifying one way or the other. Just moments ago, the Prime Minister's office releasing the mandate for the special rapporteur investigating foreign interference, who is a former Governor General David Johnston. It gives him the power to review classified and unclassified information work without security agencies. Also assessing the extent and impact of foreign interference and report back no later than October 31st on the situation and what should be done moving forward, including whether or not to call a public inquiry. While his House leader wouldn't rule out making the vote on today's Conservative opposition motion a matter of confidence, arriving on the Hill this morning, the Prime Minister made it clear that is not on the table. He says they take the issue seriously and contrasts that it will be with what it calls a circus from the Conservative Party if they moved forward. Now, the motion would launch another committee investigation into foreign interference, but limit it only to China and force the PM's Chief of Staff, Katie Telford, to testify. The Liberals have been filibustering a similar motion at another committee. The NDP leader, Jagmeet Singh, says his party is giving the Prime Minister an ultimatum. Either way, Telford will testify. Stay with City News for more on this developing story from the Hill. Some business leaders and trade experts think it's time to start reviewing the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement, which replaced NAFTA less than 3 years ago. That's because of a review and term extension clause that requires all three countries to sit down every 6 years to ensure everyone is still satisfied. Some Canadian experts are concerned the clause doesn't spell out in detail what happens if one party won't sign off on extending the deal without significant changes, something that could lead to a major renegotiation of the agreement. I'm Mark Day for News Anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Imagine working in a public role and receiving this letter on your desk. I'm going to read it for you. Today's paper spoke about city committees. And as a member of the Ottawa Board of Health, citizens expect you to be a role model for our city's residents. And I believe you cannot fulfill that role due to your unhealthy status. It is unacceptable to be overweight by the 20 pounds it appears you are carrying. I would be happy to see you on the new committee on the condition that you become a better role model. Really? That letter was sent to Elise Banham, and Elise joins me now. Hi, Elise.
Hi, how are you?
I've got to be honest with you, Elise. We've spoke a lot over the years. I've never been more mad than I am today. So walk us through what your role is in the community, Elise.
So for the past 5.5 years, I've worked as the executive director of the Ottawa Birth and Wellness Centre. And prior to that, I served as a registered midwife in the community. So I've been involved in healthcare for over a decade now. And that led me to apply 4 years ago to be on the Ottawa Board of Health, so Public Health Board. And I've been serving in that role for over 4 years and have really appreciated it. Of course, 4 years ago, we didn't know that a global pandemic was going to hit and public health was going to be brought into the center of our lives, but I really enjoyed that role.
And you have joined me here, Elise, many, many times to talk about various issues regarding new moms, regarding birth issues, all sorts of different topics over the last couple of years. So I was sent this, a snippet of this letter. And I was, suggested that I have you on today. Well, of course, I said yes immediately because I respect you very much. And this absolutely boils my blood. So I'm just going to say it out loud. I'm overweight. I come in here every day. I talk on the radio. What I look like absolutely does not dictate in any way what I do here on the radio every day. And Elise, I'm going to say you are absolutely beautiful, and I absolutely do not understand, and you're brilliant. I do not understand why somebody takes time out of their day to write a hateful message like that to you, and shame on them, Elise.
Thank you. I really appreciate that support. And it really is that type of support I've received overwhelmingly from not only the Ottawa community, and it has been overwhelming in the Ottawa community, but I've received messages from British Columbia, from Peru, and, people overwhelmingly support the fact that people are people and they can contribute to society no matter what they look like, no matter what their background is. And, that's why I wanted to share this.
Can we talk how shallow somebody has to be to take time out of their day? And the reason I asked you to explain all of your roles in the in the community, as opposed to me saying them, is because people that hold that many roles in the community like you do have no time to write letters like that. Because people that do that type of thing, Elise, I'm going to tell you right now, they have absolutely nothing going on in their worlds of any value to think that that's how they want to spend their time.
Yes, and that's the thing, right? Like, this person took the time to write the letter, but also paid $1 to send me that letter because a stamp costs $1. I'm a millennial. We don't mail many things anymore, but I'm pretty sure it costs $1. And what I'll say is that $1 is not going to rent space in my head.
Absolutely not. And I have to say, I'm on television every day. I'm on Rogers television every day. I've had my share of comments about what I look like. I host a lot of events. I'm very public. I've had my share as well of people commenting on my physical being. It doesn't take any rent in my head either, by the way, Elise. It takes absolutely none of it. Because
That's good, and it shouldn't.
Because
you're amazing.
The only reason that I'm in this role is because of all the people that have supported me to get here. And I know you have a long list of people that have supported you. People like that are going to, write a letter like that, share that type of knowledge, try and hurt somebody else, because there's no two ways about it. That hurt people, right? Yeah. So that person obviously has had a lot of hurt in their lives, and they've turned around and they're trying to send that through the mail for $1. And quite honestly, it absolutely I despise this type of rhetoric that's happening, whether it be in social media and someone DM me or someone send you a message. I know lots of different people that receive this. I have a lot of friends that work in media. I have a friend who's on television every day as well. She gets the same sort of, comments about what she looks like. We know that there was an experiment done by, I believe it was an Australia television station, where the gentleman that was on, there was a co-anchor, and it was a male and a female. The man wore the exact same thing every single day, every single day for 365 days. The woman dressed differently every single day. Not one person commented on what he wore, and she got all sorts of hate mail about what patterns she was wearing and the colors and sleeveless and all that kind of crap.
Yeah, that does not surprise me. We see it. We see it everywhere, right? Like, I see it with media quite a bit. And you see it with politicians as well. And often it's really just trying to discredit someone's opinion by trying to make them feel bad about themselves. The article that this woman was referring to was about me promoting the fact that we should have more diversity and more diversity of opinion on city committees and boards. And likely, I'm going to assume that this person did not like that. And so because they didn't like that, they wanted me to feel bad about myself. So I stopped doing what I like to do in community. And, it's not going to work. I think women are done with it. I've received countless messages from men who have been like, that is absolutely ridiculous. And frankly, I think that the work and who we are, and this goes for you, Sam, you're amazing. The issues you highlight are amazing. Your opinions are amazing. Like, the work and who we are will shine through. And, as Taylor Swift says, the haters are going to hate, and we've just got to shake them off.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And your decision to share it, Elise, what kind of process was that for you?
Well, I wish I could say that I thought about it really hard, to be honest. I was really sad. I cried a bit in my office, and then I got mad. And again, like a true millennial, I decided to share it on Twitter. But in hindsight, I'm very, very proud that I did, because it's given other people the platform to not be isolated in these experiences. People have been able to share with me, share with each other, how these types of comments have made them feel. And frankly, my daughter is just turning 3 in a couple of weeks, and she doesn't obviously know what's going on, and I hope to protect her from that for a little while. But I know when she grows up, she's going to know, at least from me, that what matters is what's on her inside and how she treats people and how she's kind, and not her physical appearance.
Elise, thank you so much. It's a brave thing to do. It's a brave thing to do. That you shared it, and shame on somebody that takes pen to paper and sends hate, whether that be on social media or, like you say, spend a buck to ruin someone's day. I know you're using this as a platform, because this is really a conversation about mental health.
Absolutely. And, mental health's never been worse. And we need more resources for mental health, and especially for teenagers who are on Instagram. We see the numbers of what it's doing with eating disorders. And I just hope to counter that narrative, and that people can look and see the support that's out there for all body types. Thank you, Elise, for joining us today. Thank you. Elise Banham joining us. Appreciate her time today. Oh, okay. I'm gonna calm down a little bit. That really made me mad. We've got lots of great guests coming for you today. We're getting ready, of course, for our lunch as well. We're having lunch today with Noor Qadri. He's going to join us, and Keith Egla is going to join us as well. We have lots to talk to them about. But before lunch, don't you worry. We've got lots coming for you. Ben Wise is going to spend time with us from the Historical Society of Ottawa, and we're also going to talk about World Down Syndrome Day, which is today. Stay with us on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Salut tout le monde, je m'appelle Jessie Lindsay. Venez écouter mon spectacle Encore Ottawa 3 sur Rogers TV cette semaine. Hi everybody, come listen to my Encore Ottawa 3 show on Rogers TV this week. I hope you enjoy it.
Hi, I'm Justice. And I'm Nia. And we believe dreams fuel revolutions. That's why we're engaging with Canadian icons and the causes they support.
Join us for these inspiring conversations and find out how you can be revolutionary.
On Tuesday's Daytime Ottawa, we're going to share some delicious recipes, all with that spring theme. So you're going to want to tune into that because spring is in the air, my friends. We'll also introduce you to a local jewelry designer who has some fantastic pieces to share with us on the show. And Howie Mooney, who is a very familiar face to those of us at Rogers TV from many years ago. He's written a brand new book with some fascinating stories about sports.
For 25 years, you've been helping to make our roads safer by doing the right thing. You've been the designated driver, you've stayed over, called home, you've called a cab or a friend, and planned ahead. Let's keep doing the right thing. Support sober driving by getting yourself and your friends home safely.
Do the right thing.
Visit ArriveAlive.org to find out more. Arrive Alive. Drive sober.
Hi, I'm Julian Armour from Music and Beyond. Join us for a new show this spring on Rogers called Music and Beyond Presents.
On the next episode of Simply Cooking by Chef, I show you how to fill your freezer with 8 different meals for the next time you're in a pinch.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Okay, I know it's Tuesday because Ben Wise is here, Historical Society of Ottawa. Hi, Ben.
Good morning, Sam. You know, we've talked about the Ottawa civil servant considered to be the father of ice hockey a century and a half ago, and how much the Governor General Lord Stanley and his sons did to spread the popularity of the new game. We've talked about the contributions of early Ottawa senators like One-Eyed Frank McGee and King Clancy, and top players of our own era like Alfie and Phillips and Spezza and Steve Yzerman are well known. Mm-hmm. But too often it's the women's stories that are frozen out of hockey history.
Absolutely.
Skating alongside Lord Stanley's hockey-loving sons in that Rideau Hall rink was the Governor General's equally hockey-loving daughter, Isabel Stanley. In fact, our friend James Powell writes a great account about the evolution of women's hockey, and he points out that the earliest known photograph of women playing hockey is on that Rideau Hall rink. And there, bobbing and weaving in the middle of that first blurry image of women in their skates and long dresses is Lady Isabel. The first known women's hockey game in Ottawa was in 1889, played at an indoor rink just recently built on the corner of Theodore and Waller, part of what is now the University of Ottawa campus. And Isabel Stanley played in that first game as well. After that, the towns of the Ottawa Valley began to take the lead in women's hockey, with teams taken to the ice in places like Perth, Carleton Place, Smiths Falls. Ottawa neighborhoods like New Edinburgh, Sandy Hill, and Stewarton soon took up the challenge as well and suited up their own women's teams. Teams from Westboro, from across the river in Hull came along. And because many of these teams were largely made up of unmarried women, decency, of course, required that they be accompanied in their travel and chaperoned by a married woman. Many back then still considered women's hockey to be unladylike, and the women players were sometimes mocked and jeered. During one of the women's series, 2 men's teams made fun of the women by playing a game of their own, dressed in bloomers and frilly hats. But that didn't deter the women. Teams were soon organized in Pembroke, Renfrew, Cornwall, Kingston. And as with so many sports during wartime, men's hockey teams saw that many of their best players enlisted when the First World War arrived, and soon women's hockey suddenly became more popular. Many male spectators, initially skeptical, were soon impressed with the quality and excitement of the women's game. At a game in 1915, one of the women, being, as you know, smarter than men, made the decision to wear a goaltender's mask, and this was almost a half century before Jacques Plante became the first to do so in the NHL.
Wow.
Now, that same year, 1915, a new women's team was formed here in town called the Ottawa Alerts. The Alerts then reigned for years as one of the top women's teams in Eastern Ontario. In 1922, the first women's provincial hockey league was formed called the Ladies Ontario Hockey Association. And then, on March 20th, 1923, exactly a century ago yesterday, Sam, the Ottawa Alerts won Ontario's first ever women's provincial hockey championship. Definitely a landmark worth celebrating. You know, you'll see a wonderful photo of the team on the post we put on our Facebook page yesterday to celebrate this 100th anniversary. And we had a big surprise. One of our followers realized he actually had that very trophy in his basement. His aunt, who'd been quite an athlete in her day, had given the trophy to him and his sister way back when. So he posted some great pictures of it on our post comment section on that 100th anniversary.
Well, that's amazing. I love these stories, Ben, and I always learn something from you. And I have to say, we haven't spoke since I had the opportunity to share regarding the first 90 days of COVID. I'll look back, 3 years ago, and I joined you and the members of the Historical Society of Ottawa at the Ottawa Public Library there on Laurier, and it was such a thrill to do that, Ben. I want to thank you again.
Well, we enjoyed your presentation so much. It was a fantastic presentation that took us back 3 years and made it realize how much we were witnesses to history through all of that and how we still are.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure, Ben. Let's get caught up next week, okay?
Sounds great.
Ben Wise from the Historical Society of Ottawa talking about women on ice, women playing hockey way back to the 1800s. Love it so much. I always learn something from Ben. I wanted to spend some time today recognizing World Down Syndrome Day. And Carlos Probst joins us now. Hi, Carlos.
Hi. Good morning.
Hi, Carlos. Carlos is the chair of the Down Syndrome Association of the National Capital Region. Carlos, how are you spending today?
Well, we started the morning getting our sons. We have twin boys, one with Down syndrome, dressed appropriately with mismatching socks, which is one of the big things we do, especially today, and with their Down syndrome gear. And the school takes the occasion very seriously, and they honor our son Jonathan at the school. So that's part of it. Probably treat Jonathan to a special surprise when he gets back from school as well.
Oh, that's fun. My daughter came into my room this morning and she said, "Mom, look at my socks," and so she was getting involved too. She's 15 and she's going to Sacred Heart High School, and I know they were having a big opportunity there to recognize this day. What would you want people to know, Carlos, about your son and about Down syndrome?
I think that, part of the awareness that we want for the community to understand is people with Down syndrome are a valuable resource in the community. They add to, our son in particular, I can speak for him, he adds unconditional love. He's non-judgmental. He's just, what most human beings should aspire to be. Unfortunately, our community is not the biggest community, so, certain services, like what we do at the Down Syndrome Association of the Capital Region, is we champion for our members, our community, and a simple thing like medical. There's a beautiful clinic at CHEO for the Down syndrome members of our community, but once they become adults, there's no support for them. So it's little things that we try to champion. We also try to get people from our community together, so we organize activities throughout the year to get the whole community together, for enjoyable, outings, so the pandemic was very difficult for the people in our community because they were isolated, and that is not a natural state. especially for someone that requires constant interaction with others and affection. Working remotely does not work for them, or communicating remotely.
It was such a difficult time, and when I think back to, that time and that isolation, I can't imagine how challenging it was for your family as well, Carlos. I was watching the Oscars and delighted to see a young man win an Oscar for a movie that he starred in, The Irish Goodbye. Did you hear about that, Carlos?
Yes, for sure. My wife always keeps tabs on that, and I haven't seen the movie, but more and more members of our community are making themselves known on the world stage, and we're extremely proud of these individuals. They show exactly, Down syndrome shouldn't be looked as a handicap. It is more a different way of viewing the world, and as I said before, these people are very special. Our people are very special, and they offer a different view of life to others. And I'm very humbled by all these people that have succeeded in the world stage and that they get acknowledged for their efforts.
Well, I look forward to speaking to you in the future, and I hope Jonathan enjoys his surprise today.
I'm sure he will.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. Carlos Probst joining us today, chair of the Down Syndrome Association of the National Capital Region, celebrating World Down Syndrome Day. So if you see somebody with mismatched socks today, they're probably celebrating this very special day today. When we come back, it's lunchtime. We're getting ready for lunch. We're setting the table with some of those big topics of the day. Newer Kadri is going to join us. Professor, University of Ottawa, also ran for the mayor of Ottawa's position in the election last October. And Keith Egley, former city councillor for Knoxdale Maryville Ward, he decided not to run in the last election. So two gentlemen spending lunch with us today talking about lots of different topics, including Donald Trump. We're going to talk a little Pierre Poilievre. We're going to talk about Joe Biden and everything in between. Lots to talk about today. We're getting ready as well for the OBJ Business Lunch. Michelle Grue is going to join us today, Executive Director of Ocobia. She's going to talk to us about pandemic recovery and how challenging that's been for businesses. And then we're going to talk a little air conditioning with Bob. Bob is the owner of Ambassador Dairy HVAC. We're going to chat with Bob a little bit later as well. And you're going to be here for lunch, which makes it all the best. Stay with us here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Your City News forecast for today could be a windfall of cash. With our weather guarantee, if we're off by 3 degrees, you could win. Enter at ottawa.citynews.ca. And if you hear your name on Wake Up with Rob Snow at 7:21 a.m., call in to claim your cash.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
Think it's okay to drive high? Think again. Drug-impaired driving is as illegal as drunk driving, and in Ontario, the penalties are the same. If police suspect you're driving under the influence of drugs of any kind, or a combination of drugs and alcohol, and you fail a roadside test, your license will be suspended immediately for up to 30 days. You'll pay a penalty of $198. And you can be charged with a criminal offense of impaired driving, the same as alcohol. Driving high is never okay.
Do you have something to share? Let everyone know about your next meeting, your need for volunteers, or your fundraising event on the Rogers TV Community Billboard. Send us your words and we'll bring them to life on Rogers TV and rogerstv.com. When it's time to spread the word, go to rogerstv.com to add your announcement to the Community Billboard.
Bum, 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 bum. $20. $20. We're on the line for $20.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
CIWW 1310 AM in Ottawa.
And CJET 1011 FM in Smith Falls and the Valley. Number one for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It's 12 o'clock. Good afternoon on this Tuesday, the 21st of March. I'm Mark Day. Right now in Ottawa, mostly cloudy at 1 in Smith Falls 3. Here's what's making news right now. And an update from Parliament Hill. Some big developments in the controversy around the foreign interference in our elections. The Prime Minister's top staff member will testify on the issue. The mandate for the special rapporteur has been released, and we won't have to worry about the possibility of an election for now. City News Parliament Hill Bureau Chief Cormac McSweeney joins us with the latest.
In a statement from the Prime Minister's office, the Feds say foreign interference is not a partisan issue, and in order to make Parliament work, the Prime Minister's Chief of Staff, Katie Telford, has agreed to testify on the matter, even though she may be limited in what she can say due to national security. Now, for weeks, the Liberals have been filibustering a motion at the Procedure and House Affairs Committee to testify, and the Conservatives had a motion before the House of Commons that would have forced Telford to take the stand. The NDP said it would support the Conservative motion in the House unless the Liberals stop trying to block Telford's testimony at committee. Now, this all comes as the Prime Minister's office announces the new mandate for the special rapporteur, former Governor General David Johnston. It gives him the power to review classified and unclassified information, work with security agencies, assess the extent and impact of foreign interference, and then report back no later than October 31st. He also will be deciding whether or not to call a public inquiry, something the opposition and many experts have been calling for. Cormac McSweeney, Parliament Hill.
Thank you, Cormac. Today, first full day of spring, here with the forecast. City News weather specialist Denise Andriacci.
A cloudy day today for Ottawa with some flurries in the forecast. We should stay dry here in Smiths Falls, but for Ottawa, a few centimeters of some snow in spots is possible. Mostly cloudy through Wednesday, some scattered showers, wet flurries by the afternoon, and it's a windy day and unsettled for Thursday. Mild near 10 to 15 millimeters of rain, but also some mixing and some wet flurries possible. The sun is back out for Friday near +4. The guaranteed high today, 3.
Right now, cloudy in Ottawa and 1-3 in Smith Falls. There is some good news on the inflation fight in Canada, but as City News reporter Chris McCusker tells us one area of the economy is being especially stubborn.
The Consumer Price Index rose by 5.2% in February compared to a year ago. That was better than the 5.4% expected and down from 5.9% in January, so the largest deceleration in headline inflation since April 2020. Now, despite the overall cooling, grocery prices up by 10.6% from a year ago, the 7th consecutive month with a double-digit increase. And Doug Porter, chief economist at the Bank of Montreal, will be watching that.
I guess if there's a little bit of good news, is we did see a bit of a more moderate increase in the latest month. It looks like we're past the worst on that front, but we've still got grocery prices up by more than 10% in the past year, and obviously that's still one of the biggest issues here.
Chris McCusker, City News.
City News time, 12:03. The consultation with the public has started on Lansdowne 2.0, but there are concerns right now being raised. City News reporter Chris Curry says more from the Glebe Community Association.
Issues with transparency. Carolyn McKenzie feels like the city is holding back.
Basically so that we as residents and taxpayers of the city could inform ourselves before engaging with the city.
And issues with the process, which includes a tightened timeline for consultation, then to council in July, which includes discussions around the future of retail and certain financial statements that have not been made public yet.
The financial strategy being proposed is going to make a huge bet on future success of retail, which is, possibly that's a bet we want to take, but I don't think that any of us should be taking that bet before actually seeing the financial statements. And I think that's a reasonable request.
Chris Curry, City News.
I'm Mark Day for News Anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Connecting you and your community. This is the Sam Laprade Show on
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Okay, what's on the menu today? We have a little Donald Trump. We're going to talk about a pending arrest, maybe. We don't know for sure. We're going to talk a little Pierre Poilievre as well in regards to his proposal for health care. He has an idea how to get more doctors into the system. We're also going to talk about Joe Biden, his visit to the Capitol. You'll want to check out any of the traffic disruptions that's going to make in our city. We're going to talk about all these fascinating topics with Noor Qadri, professor, University of Ottawa, also ran for mayor of the city of Ottawa last October. Hi, Noor.
Good afternoon, Sam.
Thank you so much for spending time with us. You're joined today, pulling up a chair at the table today, is Keith Egley, former city councillor for Knoxdale Maryville Ward. Hello, Keith.
Hi, how are you, Sam?
Good. Thanks so much for spending time with us today, for having lunch with us today. Let's talk about some of the breaking news. We're seeing that Katie Telford has agreed to testify in regards to potential election interference by China. What does this mean, Noor, do you think, for the Liberals?
Well, I think Mr. Trudeau has been trying to duck this a little bit, but when the opposition brought this forward, it was mainly a political game to be played. I don't think it is one of the major issues that is happening in this country. Because it has been always touted that immigrant Canadians, they have like a dual form of some kind of loyalty. And when Chinese Canadians go and they try to help in political campaigns, they do it in all political parties, and not only Chinese Canadians, Canadians from all walks of life, from all backgrounds. And it happens that when we're not happy with China, we raise this up. This is something that has been happening every year in every province, in every election, in every federal election, with every political party. And I think a public inquiry into this will just make it clean and clear, and everybody will say that these are Canadians who are trying to participate in the elections, and you cannot just cut them from their roots. Chinese Canadians, they want the best type of relationships with China, just like every other Canadian who comes from any other background. We have seen Ukrainian Canadians want that with Ukraine, and many others. So it's a step in the right direction, I think, for the Prime Minister, Chief of Staff to be testifying into this. Because Canadians have many more things to worry about, whether it is with the housing crisis, whether it is with inflation, whether it is with other challenges beyond the interference of elections.
And we know, Keith, that, this has become exactly probably, if these allegations are true, this is exactly what China would want, is this infighting between Canadians. And we know that Mark Holland, a PC MP, had this to share.
Are you going to make it a confidence matter?
I think that, look, we are having ongoing discussions and dialogue. I think that it's not helpful to jump to the end of a process when we're still having conversations in a contemporaneous circumstance. We will continue to work on those. I understand the temptation to go to the end of the process when we're still in the middle of it. My mind is squarely focused on finding answers right now. I'm saying that we're in a situation right now where we continue to have these discussions. Thank you very much.
And I think, Keith, this is not what Canadians want. They do not want to be going to the polls right now. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely, and I think it's the right thing that Katie Telford is going to make herself available and answer questions, and more importantly than that, I think David Johnston, I have a lot of respect for the former Governor General, and I think that his appointment to look at this in a broader way and make recommendations. He's an individual that despite what the Conservative Party are saying now, he was appointed Governor General by Prime Minister Harper. He was engaged by Prime Minister Harper on the Mulroney inquiry. So he's an individual with a broad base of support right across political lines. Very smart guy. Background as a law professor. I'm a little bit biased, being trained as a lawyer, but I think that's the kind of person we need to ask the questions and make some solid recommendations as to how we go forward.
And it's so interesting. I have obviously a great amount of respect for Mr. Johnson as well. The 28th Governor General of this country has joined me a lot here on the show, shared his thoughts on many different issues. I think one of the biggest pieces that he brings is this issue of trust. I mean, he wrote a book about trust, Noor. I think David Johnson, is really one of the best people to lead this. I think what surprised me about it was that he would put himself, in this kind of situation, because he's going to have a lot of criticism no matter which way that this inquiry goes.
I think that speaks to his character. I think that absolutely speaks to his character and why he's the right person to do this. He puts Canada first, and he's doing it again in this situation. And I think that's absolutely why we need him to do what he's been asked to do. And I'm grateful that he's agreed to.
I'm grateful too. Noor, what are your thoughts?
Well, I believe that nobody kind of doubts the trust and the capabilities of the former Right Honorable David Johnston. He's a wonderful person. And Keith raised a very good point, because he was appointed by Prime Minister Harper that people should not be looking at this as a partisan thing. But whoever is appointed to this, if you give a committee without teeth, without the tools, without what it needs, it is going to be limited in its findings, and that's not going to be useful neither for the government, nor for the opposition, nor for the public. A public inquiry is the right way to go, and we have seen this in public inquiries, that we could go to the root causes and the foundations, and we can find solutions. If this is going to finish with a small set of findings and recommendations, these are not binding to governments. It's going to be a small slap on the hand, and with this, we will not get to the bottom of the issue and the problems.
It's going to be very interesting to watch for sure. Let's shift gears a little bit and talk about Pierre Poilievre. We know that although we're not in campaign mode, it sometimes feels like it, Keith, with Pierre Poilievre. Would you agree that this issue in regards to healthcare, he's trying to put himself, in the best light in terms of bringing more docs into the system?
Well, I think Pierre's always in campaign mode, quite frankly. I mean, I think that's his fallback position. But I do think it's important that new ideas get put on the table. I'm not sure that this is the end all and be all that will solve all the solutions around healthcare in the country, but we do know that the healthcare is suffering right now. It does need a fresh look. It needs new ideas, new delivery models. So I think this is important that it's on the table, that those discussions can happen. And I hope that as part of those discussions, not only at the federal level, but the provinces are looked to for their input as well, because at the end of the day, they're administering the healthcare system in the respective provinces, and I think their input is important to decide whether this is a good idea, a bad idea, how it can be tweaked or implemented. So I'm happy it's on the table. As I say, I don't know if it's a complete solution, but we need to keep throwing those solutions on the table right now, because, as I say, our healthcare system, it's sick, it's hurting, and we have to do everything we can to try and figure out how to make it better.
I was anxious to hear your thoughts on that, Keith, as the former chair of Ottawa Public Health. An important conversation for sure. You'd have that inside look at even the issue even in a more broad way. Noor, let me ask you this. When you think about Pierre Poilievre, do you think that Canadians are ready for a change? They may not be ready for an election right now, but do you think we're heading that way?
I think we're heading that way. Pierre Poilievre would like this to happen yesterday. He's still in his honeymoon as a leader, and as things go forward, this stardom is going to be fading away, and this is what Mr. Trudeau is trying to avoid, having an immediate election. He wants to expose Mr. Poilievre very well, as is somebody who is just doesn't have a plan. Going back to the ideas that he's touting, I think they are better than what we have now, but they don't go further enough. The issue is that in every province in this country we have shortage in doctors. There is no there is no one province that has excess doctors to say that doctors can work in any other province. What we need in this country, and this is something that is not new. In 2004, I remember I had this in a discussion with the late Jack Layton. I told him if you have an emergency to your home, it's better to call Blue Line Taxi rather than 911. Because the possibility of 50%, I've got a possibility or probability of having more than 50% having a doctor driving that taxi. And the recognition of foreign credentials is going to be the solution to the healthcare crisis. I know in Ottawa alone, hundreds of doctors who were not able to practice. Their families live here. They immigrated to Canada, and they told them they gave them grades on their immigration because of their degrees, but they couldn't practice, and they go back to their home countries. And they come from every country all over around the world. Their families live here. They wanted to immigrate. They wanted to settle, but you've got a doctor who's got 10 or 15 years experience, and the process for recognition of their credentials is not an easy one. It's not straightforward. They put roadblocks. They have to deal with syndicates. They have to deal with orders. They have to deal with provincial laws. And it was the federals who invited them to come in. And we have seen this shortage during the pandemic. It was crazy. During the pandemic, we needed them desperately, but it was the rules that we had that put roadblocks into this. We were able to stop the rules to get vaccines and bypass all the rules, but not to get doctors into the system.
Really appreciate your conversation about this topic. It's one that's near and dear to my heart as well. When we come back on the lunch, Noor Qadri is going to stay with us. Keith Eglai is going to stay with us. We know you're going to stay with us because we're going to talk a little Joe Biden, a little Donald Trump. Stay with us on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hello, my name is Sean Duhame. And this is the Sean Duhame Trio. I hope you enjoyed.
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
Today, I helped a parent feed their family by connecting them to a food program.
Today, I helped someone connect with mental health supports.
Today, I helped a couple struggling to pay their bills access financial aid.
Every day, 211 navigators connect Canadians to critical government and community programs and services.
211. Help starts here.
Behold Emily Carr, painter, about to encounter the force that will consume her life.
How tightly they sealed their secrets from me, humble and pleading before the great trees, awaiting the invitation from the Spirit to come meet me halfway. Nothing is still now, everything is alive. At last, I knew I must see through the eye of the totem itself, the mythic eye of the forest.
Seldom able to live by her brush, before she died in 1945, Emily Carr was in the first rank of Canadian painters.
This is my country. What I want to express is here, and I love it. Amen.
Comes the 67. He scores! How's that for your first of the season?
Another highlight reel goal.
Perfect placement there on the one-time. What a play!
67's action on Rogers TV.
It's a new season of The New Fly Fisher on Rogers TV.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, it's lunchtime, everyone. We always invite a couple of people to have lunch with us, and today we invited to the table Noura Qadri, Professor, University of Ottawa, and Keith Eglai joins us as well, former City Councillor for Knoxdale Merivale. There is a big visit happening, Keith, and of course it's happening on Thursday. We want to warn everybody that traffic around the airport and downtown will certainly be a little bit different than we normally see. It can cause some disruptions when we have a head of state visit like Mr. Biden. What are you hoping for this visit with Mr. Biden and Mr. Trudeau?
Well, it's long overdue. I'm sure it would have happened by now, but for COVID intervening and putting everything on hold as it did in so many ways. But no, I think it's great. There are our closest neighbor in geographically and I think in some ways philosophically it varies depending on who's in power, but it's almost like sharing a border with your cousins, and I think those visits are important. It reinforces that connection between the two countries. They're most important trading partners. So I think in Justin Trudeau and in Joe Biden, you have like-minded individuals. They know each other from the time, of course, when Joe Biden was serving as vice president. I think it's as I say, long overdue, and I'm hoping for some good news announcements out of it about the continuing relationship, positive relationship we have between the two countries.
And let me ask you this, Noura, when we see heads of state meet like this, where obviously all eyes are on Ping and Putin meeting right now as well, do we make too much of these visits, or are they crucial to sort of what's going to happen between nations?
They are importantly crucial. While on the face of it, we see that the two leaders are close to each other, the relationship between the two countries is not at its best. We have seen jabs being thrown out on both sides of the border. Of course, the relationship was rocky under Mr. Trump. Mr. Trump has done a lot of damage to that relationship, and yet it hasn't been fixed under Joe Biden. Are we renegotiating NAFTA or not? Are the things that happened in NAFTA that were forced up our throat as Canadians, and we were asked to sign the deal in the 11th hour by Mr. Trump, take it or leave it. Nothing of that has been corrected with the presence of Mr. Biden. During the closure of the Ambassador Bridge with the protests and the convoys, we have seen a lot of protectionism coming from the United States, from the President himself, by American aspects, whether it is about lumber, whether it is about other infrastructure-related stuff. So I believe a lot of Canadians and businesses in Canada have paid a price for this, and Mr. Trudeau has to go a little bit and dig deeper into that relationship. He has to have specific asks from Mr. Biden. And be blunt about it. Otherwise, I would say that this relationship is not at its best. Although it looks like that when the two leaders meet, they are friends. But a lot of the damage that has been done under Trump has not been undone, and during the pandemic too.
Speaking about Donald Trump, Keith, I know many eyes are on New York today to see if what Mr. Trump tweeted out that he was going to be arrested today will actually come true, indicted on charges. What do you think about this move by the DA?
Well, I'm of two minds. If something was done that shouldn't have been done, that was illegal, then the investigation should happen and the appropriate steps should follow. On the other hand, this is an individual that we know feeds on publicity, and you have to wonder if an arrest is somehow in a weird kind of way going to appeal to his supporters, is going to add to the mystique of Donald Trump and his narrative that he pushes against the establishment, and so that worries me a little bit, as it looks like he will be a candidate or hopes to be a candidate in the next presidential election. If this somehow builds him up, then it may well have an opposite effect as to what people think should happen.
And what do you think, Noor? Is this building up Mr. Trump?
I think Mr. Trump is going to be the biggest beneficiary out of this. There's no doubt that Mr. Trump is unstoppable, whether we like him or not. And obviously, I'm on the not side. But Mr. Trump has crushed the establishment within the Republican Party completely on this. A lot of them were supporting him in his second bid, just to try to avoid him having a second coming in 2024. We have seen him campaigning nonstop in the primaries for the midterm elections, and again he was crushing a lot of his rivals within the Republican Party, and he has won that significantly. He won a lot in the midterm elections, at least from people who he has supported, and that has built up momentum for him to become the next candidate for the Republican Party. It is definitely a political jab at him. These pieces of information have been known for a long period of time. If the judiciary were right about it, they should have done this in the previous election, before the previous election, while he's sitting as president. They could have done it. Now he's going to get a lot of immunity because of this. He's going to use a lot of judicial tool at his disposal. They could play this down as being a kind of a misdemeanor, and it wouldn't affect him big time, and he wouldn't be arrested for that. They could use the 5-year limitation of statute, because there were 5 years have passed, and he was in New York. He's arguing whether his 4 years as president would count as he's been out of state, because that's the only way that they could reuse it. He has a lot of things at his disposal not to be use it, and he could flip this to his advantage. And we have to be prepared and ready as Canadians. We could have a President Trump in 2024.
It's kind of like days of our lives. I appreciate the time today. Noor Qadri joining us, Professor, University of Ottawa, Keith Eglai, former City Councillor for Knoxdale, Maryville. Gentlemen, thank you so much for spending time with us today.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it very much. We're getting ready for the OBJ Business Lunch. We're going to meet a couple of people in the business lunch that you'll want to know. We're going to meet Michelle Guru, who joins us here quite a bit on City News. She's going to talk about the small business pandemic recovery and how that needs to be a priority. And Bob Thiebart is going to join us as well. He's the owner of Ambassador Dairy HVAC. We're going to talk a little AC. Stay with us here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
On the next Fit Over 50, join us for leg strength and balance. Can't wait to see you then. Namaste.
I'm Justice.
And I'm Nia. And we believe dreams fuel revolutions.
That's why we're engaging with Canadian icons and the causes they support.
Join us for these inspiring conversations and find out how you can be revolutionary.
After a night out with your friends, not having a plan for a safe ride home can leave you in a bad spot. You could end up riding in a police car, an ambulance, or a hearse. These unplanned modes of transportation can be a costly choice and do not take you home. Your plan could include a designated driver, a taxi, or public transit. Drink responsibly, choose your ride, and have a plan for a safe ride home.
Visit arrivealive.org to find out more.
Once upon a time, in a nursery rhyme, there were 3 bears. 1, 2, 3 bears. And they went a-walking in the cool woods a-talking while their porridge began.
Rogers TV invites you to let your imagination roam as we present Ottawa Storytellers. Each week we'll present a collection of original creative stories and inspirations for children of all ages. Join us for Ottawa Storytellers on Rogers TV.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
Salut tout le monde, je m'appelle Jessie Lindsay. Venez écouter mon spectacle Encore Ottawa 3 sur Rogers TV cette semaine. Hi everybody, come listen to my Encore Ottawa 3 show on Rogers TV this week. I hope you enjoy it.
Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It's 12:30. Good afternoon on this Tuesday, the 21st of March. I'm Mark Day, and right now, mostly cloudy in Ottawa and 1 in Smiths Falls, 3. Here's what's making news this hour. The Prime Minister has bowed to pressure from opposition parties and agreed to let Chief of Staff Katie Telford testify before a Commons committee. Opposition MPs on the committee want her to answer questions about when Trudeau was briefed about possible foreign interference in the last 2 federal elections. This morning, NDP leader Jagmeet Singh vowed to vote with the Conservatives on a motion to compel Telford to testify if Trudeau didn't change his mind. Cost of groceries rose 10.6% year over year in February, which was down from January's increase of 11.4%. But even though food inflation appears to be easing, experts say we shouldn't expect lower prices at the grocery store. Dalhousie University's Sylvain Charbois predicts the food inflation rate will continue to cool, but he says shoppers may still experience sticker shock at the grocery store. And Ontario Premier Doug Ford says this week's provincial budget will include $224 million more to build and upgrade training centres as part of a push to boost the skilled trades. The government says applications for new Skills Development Fund capital stream are set to open in late spring for groups including unions, businesses, industry associations, Indigenous centres to build new training centres or upgrade to convert existing facilities. Ontario also plans to spend $75 million more the next 3 years to support operations at those centres, as Labour Minister Monty McNaughton says the province is facing the largest labour shortage in a generation. I'm Mark Day for News Anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Business Lunch on City News, brought to you by the Ottawa Business Journal.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, it is the Ottawa Business Journal's Business Lunch. We look to the OBJ for some of those great stories of the day. And one story really caught our eye, and that was the small business pandemic recovery must be a priority for the federal budget. And that is Michelle Gru spending time with us today, Executive Director of Ecobia. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, Sam.
Michelle, for people that aren't familiar with Ecobia, walk us through what the acronym stands for.
Sure, it's the Ottawa Coalition of Business Improvement Areas. So we represent the 19 BIAs and over 6,400 businesses in the city of Ottawa.
Wow, that's a big mandate, Michelle.
Yeah.
Big Band-Aid. And you know, through this pandemic, obviously, you know, I've spoke to you many, many times about what the pandemic meant. I think about the darkest days, Michelle, and the conversations we had, just really, I'll use the word begging, because I felt like I was begging people, please shop local, please, you know, look into your own communities, especially when we think back to March, April, May, June of 2020. But the recovery is still there. It's a little slow though, isn't it, Michelle?
It is a little slow, and when we look back at it, it was only 1 year from today almost that restrictions were actually being lifted from businesses. So, yeah, it's going to be slow.
And tell us what you're hearing from all of those businesses that you represent.
Well, I mean, we did a survey just to gauge how people are feeling right now, and a majority don't feel that they have returned to pre-pandemic state. So, you know, a lot of them are still hurting it and trying to get back on their feet.
And do you think that, you know, obviously as you look across the country, you must have conversations with your colleagues in other areas. Is Ottawa better or worse off compared to other areas?
I would say that this is a nationwide issue, and it's mainly towards specific hardest hit sectors. So, you know, these sectors have endured, you know, further closures, further restrictions, and therefore have taken a lot longer to get back to normal.
Well, and I mean, I really do try not to talk about it because it was such a challenging time. But, you know, I'm going to mention the convoy. That was such a challenging time that added that layer onto businesses, and particularly in that downtown core as well. What are the plans, Michelle, to try and you know, re-energize, you know, in terms of tourism, in terms of all of those issues? I know there's conversations with the federal government.
Yeah, so I mean, we put an ask to the federal government to, as the major occupant of the downtown core, to basically figure out what to do in terms of those buildings. I mean, what we need for those downtown businesses are people, whether they live there, work there, whether they're going to visit. What we're trying to do is drive as many people there as possible, and we're looking to the federal government for their part in addressing that. And it's not necessarily that kind of return to work mandate. It's a, what do you do with those empty buildings?
And I spoke with a couple of people that have really innovative ideas on housing for those buildings. I mean, there are some really creative, smart people. I put you on that list as well, Michelle. So what is the sort of plan for that? Is there, you know, how much pressure can we put on the federal government?
I mean, the pressure's on. I know that there's the downtown task force, but even then, I think many parties have to get involved. But it does start with them, as, you know, pulling that, I'll say trigger, although it's probably not the most appropriate word, pulling that and saying, this is our plan on relieving the inventory that we have to start those transitions and transformations. You know, along with that, you know, the City of Ottawa and stakeholders can start to plan major events that will take place downtown to help bring kind of activity and tourism, but also transforming what is downtown. You know, can we put a rec center there? Can we have an event center, a music place? I'm not even sure, but I know that there's so many different options that we can do.
Mm-hmm. And we know that we heard today that the sales will start at Nordstrom, and normally when you think about a sale at Nordstrom, you get excited. I was actually quite sad to see that that's happening, because of course that means Nordstrom is closing. They announced that a couple of weeks ago. That is a big loss, although not under the sort of auspices of a small business, but those anchors really do help those small businesses draw the crowds.
It does. Those anchors help drive a lot of things. And of course, they employ so many people. I think the most depressing thing about this is that a lot of people are losing a job, and a job that they probably enjoyed, and a community of staff workers. So that's difficult. And now they have to go find something else. But that anchor in an area is so critical, and it goes hand in hand. It's what brings housing to an area. It's what brings people living close to an area, but also brings more businesses closer to an area. You know, that has happened in other places. I'll give you an example. In Calgary downtown, they've invested in building more housing downtown, and as a result, Holt Renfrew is moving downtown Calgary and committing because they know that there's investment going on in the area, and that's going to eventually serve as an anchor. So, you know, I want to see that happen in our downtown. What's that new anchor going to be, you know, even closer to our center town where we're seeing the empty office buildings. And then again in Rideau Centre, it's exciting to see that the Japanese retailer is also coming in there. So that's a good part.
Michelle, what keeps you up at night?
I'm going to say CEBA loans. You asked. No, it's I worry about a lot of small businesses and insolvency over the next year. We've had record amounts since the pandemic. I guess in January 2022, the numbers are now reflecting the same as what we saw in March 2020, and so that's really what keeps me up at night. And you know, trying to get some forgiveness and support for those small businesses who are still suffering from that pandemic.
If you could turn back time and go to 3 years ago, and it was such a dark time. I mean, I think, what are we today? The 21st of March. We were, you know, I think I was about 5 days into sort of what we referred to as the COVID show, trying to bring out those good news stories. But it was such a dark time. What if you could turn back time? Is there anything you would have done differently, Michelle?
Oh my goodness, I'm not even sure. I think it's I would say advocating for businesses in terms of the supports that they would receive. I think from different levels, or you know, making sure that they were well taken care of. And you know, what was given to them was kind of a life preserver from the federal government, but it's not really turning into a life preserver anymore. So if I could go back in time, I would make sure that it was a lifelong preserver instead of just a life preserver.
And you did a great job. The question certainly was no criticism, Michelle, because you did a really, really great job. And and I know how challenging it was. And I think at the end we probably had, if not all, the majority of the BIAs on to really try and highlight the different communities, because we did want, well, especially because you couldn't drive anywhere at the time. We were trying to get people to really look at their community and where could we, you know, go eat at a mom and pop shop that was trying to stay open, and where could they shop for birthday stuff if they could shop at the curb and all that stuff. But it certainly, as I look back on it, I don't know if you're going through this. I did a talk recently at the Historical Society of Ottawa, talking about the first, 90 days of COVID. And as I was kind of going back and talking about it, as I heard myself, coming up with ideas on what to speak about, it almost seemed unreal that we went through that time. I find even myself seeing, a little bit of tape still left in front of grocery stores where we used to have to stand behind each other. It all seems like a bit of a bad dream sometimes, Michelle.
It really does, and I'd have to say the media really did support people supporting businesses, local businesses. It was really good. That also was a life preserver as well, because as businesses were kind of scrambling to get themselves online and figure out what to do and how to pivot. You were there to talk about different businesses and getting out there and supporting local. So that is really important. And of course, it shouldn't let up. I mean, we should always consider our local neighborhoods to do business in first, and then move out from there.
Mm-hmm, for sure. Keep up the great work, Michelle.
Thanks, Sam.
Thank you. Michelle Grew joining us, Executive Director for Ecobia, keeping her eye on that recovery plan for small businesses and really trying to encourage the federal government to help and continue to help those small businesses stay afloat. Well, I don't know about you. It's a little chilly outside, but I'm thinking about air conditioning. And I wanted to talk to Bob from Ambassador Dairy HVAC. He's going to join us in a few minutes. Stay with us here on the OBJ Business Lunch on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hi, I'm Justice.
And I'm Nia. And we believe dreams fuel revolutions.
That's why we're engaging with Canadian icons and the causes they support.
Join us for these inspiring conversations and find out how you can be revolutionary.
On Tuesday's Daytime Ottawa, we're going to share some delicious recipes, all with that spring theme. So you're going to want to tune into that because spring is in the air, my friends. We'll also introduce you to a local jewelry designer who has some fantastic pieces to share with us on the show. And Howie Mooney, who is a very familiar face to those of us at Rogers TV from many years ago. He's written a brand new book with some fascinating stories about sports.
Summer days, summer nights, lots of things to do, places to go, and people to see. If you're having a few drinks, be sure to plan ahead and get home safely. We don't want to pick you up. Drinking drivers risk injuries to themselves and others and take chances with their license, their jobs, and their future. Remember what's at stake and choose your ride, whether you're the driver, the passenger, or the party host. Thanks for supporting sober driving. I hope we never meet.
Visit arrivealive.org to find out more.
There we go.
Hey, going back in, okay?
It's a new season of the new Fly Fisher on Rogers TV.
On the next episode of Simply Cooking by Chef, I show you how to fill your freezer with 8 different meals for the next time you're in a pinch.
Your City News forecast for today could be a windfall of cash. With our weather guarantee, if we're off by 3 degrees, you could win. Enter at ottawa.citynews.ca. And if you hear your name on Wake Up with Rob Snow at 7:21 a.m., call in to claim your cash. The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Okay, yesterday was the first day of spring. I don't know about you, but I started thinking, do I have everything I need to get through this upcoming summer? And that's why I wanted to reach out to Bob Tiber today. He is the retail sales manager for Ambassador Dairy HVAC. Hi, Bob.
How you doing, Sam?
Good. I'm already starting to think about HVAC because I bought a brand new house and I need a new air conditioner. And I thought, when should I be planning for that?
Well, right now, the business is starting to pick up because people are planning ahead due to the shortage of equipment last year. We're trying not to be caught in the same boat again. I think we're not quite over the COVID yet.
Right. So when people are looking to, in my case, we'll talk about a couple of different scenarios, but for my scenario, bought a brand new house, took possession in December, and I'm going to need my very first air conditioner. How am I thinking about that, Bob, in terms of what size do I need? When should I get it installed? What are some things I need to think about?
Well, the size of the equipment is quite important, and a misconception, a lot of people want to oversize equipment. It shouldn't be oversized. It should be sized properly for the home. Now, with a new home construction, you have the benefit, you have all the ventilation reports of the house, so you can get a really good, accurate sizing on that. Now, as to the planning, like I mentioned, right now, the orders are coming in, and we're starting to see this picking up. Usually as soon as the melt starts, then it starts getting very busy. And you want to plan ahead if you don't want to be disappointed this year.
Absolutely. Because I find a lot of times it's on that very hot day, everybody goes, hey, wait a second, we need an air conditioner.
Yeah, same thing as the winter tire scenario. Yes, as soon as it gets hot, yes, we get extremely busy.
Right, absolutely. So for those people that are thinking, hey, we have an air conditioner, we need a new one, what's the process there? Any difference?
No, you should, you phone a company and they'll send an advisor down. They'll take a look at your house to size it and see what the proper equipment is that's required, and then they can go from there.
For sure. And when you're thinking about the you've obviously got the report for, as you were mentioning, for my new home, but you're thinking about the size. What are the different options? Is it then, if I'm going for a certain size, is it then what company we're going with as opposed to what size?
No, once you determine the size, then there's different equipment with different, what they call SEER rating. This is the efficiency of the unit. You can go with a higher SEER rating, which saves you a bit on electricity. But the most important part is the sizing. And then once you choose that, then the company you choose will go ahead with the installation.
What are the biggest mistakes people make, Bob?
I know I keep going to the same thing, but people, they always think bigger is better. They want to be cool upstairs and thinking going bigger, but going bigger, you're actually going to hurt getting the cold air upstairs because it's too heavy and damp now because the unit's oversized.
Oh, interesting. So can I ask what role the floor vents play in air conditioning? Because I know I've been told a couple of different things, but I want to get it from the pro. I want to get it from you, Bob. What should we be doing with our vents when we have air conditioning?
Yeah, cold air, because it's heavier than warm air, it's important to try and push it upstairs. So you do this by shutting some of the vents that you have. Like the vents in the basement you don't need during cooling season. You would have to shut all of those off. And on the main floor, you can shut a few of them in the smaller area to try and get as much air upstairs. Everything you pump upstairs will come down. So you start upstairs and the rest of the house is done automatically.
Okay, that's interesting. And when you think about all of the different installations that you've done, is there any installation that's more difficult to do, that requires anything different, or is everything pretty much the same now?
When we install a new air conditioner in a finished basement, it's a bit harder now to run the wiring and run the line sets, the new copper lines. Sometimes, unfortunately, there's got to be some damage in the ceiling to be able to do this. So if you plan on doing any renovation in the basement, it's a good idea to do your air conditioner beforehand to run the new pipes.
We're speaking with Bob Thibert from Ambassador Dairy HVAC. I was happy to walk into my brand new home and my very first inspection, and I saw that Ambassador had done all the work for the HVAC already, and I was already going to reach out to you to get a new air conditioner. So is it important that those two things match, or can one company do one part and another company do another portion of your work?
Well, when it comes to it's for the warranty purpose, if you have new equipment, it's better to stay with the same company so it doesn't void any of your warranties, because if another company install something, we don't know what kind of technician and stuff like that they have, so it's important to stay with the same company on the new product.
Oh, that's smart. I never thought about that. We know the cost of everything, Bob, has gone up. It doesn't matter if it's bananas or if it's a trip down south. It's everything in between. How have air conditioners been in terms of costs? Where have you landed in terms of any increases?
Well, the cost with what happened with COVID, like you say, a lot of the material went up in price. Air conditioner, a big component of it is copper. So the mineral copper, when it goes up, and obviously affects the price of the air conditioners. And right now, the biggest deal that we've been having trouble with is just supply and demand, just for the raw material itself, and that's what raises the cost.
And I can imagine as well in terms of inspecting. I'm one of those gals you probably will kind of shrug when you hear this, Bob. But I tend to get a piece of equipment like that, whether it's a new appliance, and I just think it's going to last forever. But the reality is they don't last forever. What should I be doing for annual inspections?
Well, the homeowner, what they need to do is make sure the filter on their furnace is clean. Mm-hmm. And condenser outside free of debris. They do get clogged out outside, and when that clogs up, the pressure in the unit rises, and it's a lot harder on the unit to operate, and that's where you get the breakdowns. When you do an actual annual maintenance, then the technician would clean the coils and check all the amperage and clean the contactors. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times, unfortunately, because the unit's outside, we have mice that get in there, and they can cause quite the havoc in there.
Right. I never thought about that. The covers that those air conditioners come with that I'm assuming we put them on in the winter time. How important is it that we do that? What if we miss putting that cover on?
The cover itself, I'm not a big fan of because it traps a lot of moisture inside the unit and causes the contactors to corrode. We normally recommend just a piece of wood or something on the top, so if ice falls from the roof, it doesn't damage the unit during the wintertime.
Well, Bob, I feel like I just went to air conditioning school. I feel like I've learned so much today. Thank you so much for your time today.
Well, thank you.
Bob Tiber joining us today, retail sales manager of Ambassador Dairy HVAC. I know there's still snow outside, but Noah, we have to start thinking about summer, right? Because it'll never come if we don't start thinking about it.
We got to get ready.
We have to get ready.
With the blistering heat that we faced last summer, when did we have the heat wave? Was it in May, right?
There was heat in May, definitely, and in August. Oh,
we need to be prepared earlier than later, right? And kind of just like you were saying to me in private earlier, like I sweat a lot. Like the summer does not do well for my body or my physical appearance. So good air conditioning is key for me. So
I feel like we're telling all our secrets today, Noah.
Well, that's kind of I feel like that's our brand here.
It is our brand, absolutely. I love air conditioning. I'm not going to lie to you.
I know quite a few people that say, oh, we don't turn it on. Like even Derek Fage this morning was like, we don't usually use it, me and my wife, because of energy. And I was like, dude, I cannot imagine living my life like that through the summer.
You have never seen anything more pitiful than me last summer, walking at Disney Paris when it was 38 degrees.
My God.
You've never seen. I'm telling you right now. Even Mickey, when he saw me, gave me a look like, "Oh my gosh, you poor woman." And at one point, I said to my daughter, "Honestly, this is what parents do. Parents do everything 100%. For their kids because this is the last place that I would be at 38 degrees than walking in Disney."
You said that I was at Disney because I feel like attraction parks in general always seem to be very hot places. Mm-hmm. I have a distinct memory of my father taking me to Disney as well when I was young, and the sweat on this man's forehead that was perpetuating for the whole day. He was severely dehydrated. It was not good.
It reminds me of when I took my daughter to Disney, and she was about maybe 5 or 6 years old, and she was behaving quite lovely. But there was these 4 children. These parents had these 4 children, and they were behaving so badly that this woman lined them up against a wall and said, "We're at Disney, and you will have fun." And I've never forgotten it. It was so funny. You will behave and you will have fun.
I mean, hey, it's better than just punishing your kids. Like, you're here, enjoy it.
Exactly. Too funny. Well, we're really appreciative of everything that you do for the show, Noah. Appreciate it very much. We have Kobe with us as well. We're very excited to have a new addition to the team. And be nice, Noah. Be nice. Oh, poor Kobe's. At least he's laughing. He's part of the team.